Chapter 1930. Not only was the door of the guest house destroyed, but even the entire lobby inside was destroyed. The impact of the explosion even affected many vehicles parked outside the guest house. Fortunately, there were no passers-by nearby at this time. Boo Gao was also alarmed for nothing. He looked at the guest house door that was blown up in horror and said with lingering fear, Old Wong, fortunately you are here. Something just shot from behind you and hit the door directly, and then exploded. Wong Hu frowned at this time. Boo Gao was alarmed again. Old Wong was indeed a beast. The instinct of this beast really couldn't be underestimated. Over there, Wong Hu shouted at this time, and then rushed out like a taut bowstring. Boo Gao couldn't stop him even if he shouted. Wong Hu's physical fitness was very good, even in a city with such an environment. Wong Hu's physical fitness was still much better than his. Boo Gao opened his mouth at this time and could only run quickly to the guest house lobby that was blown up. At the same time, he picked up the phone. Hello, I'm Boo Gao, agent number. Yes, we have an explosion here. Someone attacked the guest house. I suspect that the other party has a powerful weapon. It is very likely to be something like an RPG. Even if it was late, with his terrible intuition, Wong Hu quickly locked the hiding position of the secret enemy. However, when Wong Hu rushed to the hiding place, according to his intuition, there was no one there. Wong Hu frowned and squatted on the ground. He smelled some residual smell of smoke in the air. Wong Hu crawled on the ground, sniffed the floor a few times, then looked up and rushed out again. He followed the smell all the way, but the smell gradually weakened. His sense of smell shouldn't be like this, but at this time, it was already the limit, and he couldn't trace further. Just as he was anxious, a crowd suddenly surged in front of him. He saw a group of pedestrians under a pedestrian overpass at this time. Wong Hu frowned and pushed the passers-by away. It turned out that there was an injured man lying under the overpass at this time. The man seemed to have been thrown something heavy from the overpass and hit directly on the head. His head was bleeding and he fainted on the ground. A kind-hearted person was trying to save the man and call for an ambulance. Wong Hu frowned and walked to the front of the heavy object that had hit the pedestrian. It was a black rectangular suitcase. Wong Hu's nose twitched as he approached. Then, he abruptly opened the box. Inside were the assembly parts of a portable rocket-propelled grenade launcher. Wong Hu was shocked, but he saw that the people around him were all shocked by the things in the box he opened. However, everyone here was human, and the smell was mixed. Wong Hu also completely lost the source of the smell that he had tracked. Did he run away, or is he still nearby? A pair of unusually sharp eyes were enough to examine the people around him at this time. The pedestrians were all shocked by Wong Hu's gaze at this time, and subconsciously retreated and dispersed. However, Wong Hu didn't discover anything in the end. He picked up the briefcase containing the weapons right away and was about to leave without saying a word. The surrounding pedestrians all moved away in horror. Wong Hu took the briefcase and left just like that, until the terrifying figure of the one-armed, burly man could no longer be seen by the crowd. Someone subconsciously asked blankly, Should we call the police? In the crowd, a man lowered the brim of his hat at this time, quietly left the crowd, and then turned into an alley. What a terrifying sense of touch. The man in the hat said to himself at this time, Is his body a predatory beast? He was very familiar with this city. After spending a little time, he came to the door of an old second-hand electrical appliance shop that closed the door and didn't do business. The man quickly detoured to the back door of the shop, raised his head, and looked at the surveillance camera installed on the back door of the shop. After a while, the back door opened, and a young woman with a slightly nervous look came out. She looked at the man and said quickly, Mr. Jean, you are back. Let's talk inside. The man in the hat, Mr. Jean said in a low voice at this time. They quickly walked into the second-hand electrical appliance shop through the back door. The lobby was a mess of all kinds of old electrical appliances. At this time, the young woman quickly came to the counter and pried open the floor, revealing a passage leading to the underground. Mr. Jean directly turned over and jumped down. As for the young woman, after covering the floor, she took a few deep breaths, then opened the door of the shop and hung a sign that said, Open. He climbed all the way down the ladder and soon landed in a basement that was about 20 square meters. This place was like a warehouse with all kinds of shelves and several large tables that were put together. At this moment, there were 2 men and 2 women gathered around these work desks that were pieced together. Some of them were fiddling with computer equipment, some were looking up information. A man was even making something with a CNC milling machine. On the wall facing the crowd, there were many photos, news reports, and densely packed pushpins. The red lines wrapped around these pushpins looked like a spider web. Mr. Jean, seeing the man come back, everyone stopped their work and seemed to be waiting for him to speak. "Why are you looking at me like this?" Mr. Jean said expressionlessly, "Since I am back, it means I am fine. When I don't come back at the appointed time, you will show this expression." Everyone was stunned. Then they smiled helplessly. At this time, Mr. Jean walked to the man who was using the CNC milling machine. "Someone found me. In order to avoid him, I threw away your big toy. Are you interested in making another one? Do you think it is as easy as making nails?" The man who used the milling machine was annoyed. Mr. Jean didn't say anything, just patted the man's shoulder and then delicately walked past several shelves. On the other side of the wall, there was an iron door. After Mr. Jean opened the iron door, there was a small room inside, only 4 or 5 square meters. He quickly closed the door. He never let anyone enter this small house that belonged to him. In the small house, there were all kinds of photos and newspaper clippings that were even more exaggerated than those in the studio outside. They completely covered every corner of the wall. In the early hours of this morning, there was a baby crying from an unknown beast in the lower city. A villager claimed to have seen a black shadow, and then found a body in a room that was eaten up. 3 female college students were hiking. When they were found, they had already lost their minds and became crazy, possessed. An unknown flying object hit a building, causing 12 deaths and 35 injuries. An old man living alone said that he saw his deceased wife standing at his bedside at night. Several headless bodies of girls were found in the sewer, but the skulls have not been found yet. The crisis of mankind? Is our world still safe? Mr. Jean took off his hat. There were 2 shocking scars on his forehead that were covered by the hat. He sat on the shabby chair. As soon as he sat down, he painfully covered his head. His whole body trembled as he cried. He swept away the objects on the table. The sound of the CNC milling machine completely changed the sound of objects falling to the ground. At this time, Mr. Jin's hands were trembling as he opened a drawer, took out a medicine bottle, and poured some pills into his mouth. He raised his head, closed his eyes, pursed his lips, and took deep breaths. Deep breaths, cold sweat. After a while, Mr. Jean slowly opened his eyes. Then, as if he had exhausted all his strength, he slumped on the chair. His eyes gradually became hazy. He stretched out his hand as if he wanted to grab something, and his face showed a trace of a strange but happy smile. When Wang Hu carried the box back to the destroyed guest house, the administration had already sent some people, and the local police had also heard the news. For the local police station, an explosion was a very serious and vicious incident, so the ordinary police officers were unlucky. They needed someone who could control the situation. These are all ferocious people from the mysterious organization. I can't handle them. At this time, Sarmal looked at the lobby of the guest house after the explosion. He had always been a gun user, so he naturally knew how powerful the weapon was and what kind of weapon could cause such damage. In his impression, this city had been peaceful for a long time. When was the last time a big incident happened? The explosion of the Audong pharmaceutical building, or the earthquake? Sirma, Xiao Bao found some fragments inside, and the preliminary speculation is that they may be fragments of artillery shells. Sirma, what are you thinking? At this time, Mahoud stepped back a few steps, looking up at the upper floor of the guest house, and said, Lin Foam, do you think that the so-called representatives of the Transcendence really live here? Officer Lin was startled and scratched his head. According to the information, it seems so, but I haven't seen them. We can't get in touch with them, and can only help them from outside. Shall we go in and have a look? At this time, Sir Ma said hesitantly, see what these Transcendents look like. Do they have 3 heads and 6 arms? I'll listen to the leader's arrangement. Officer Lin stood straight and said, F*CKU. Sir Ma wanted to curse, but didn't know how to do so. He snorted and then straightened his chest. Let's go in and investigate. Let's go, Officer Lin said tacitly. However, when Sir Ma just walked to the stairs leading to the upper floor, he was directly stopped by 2 agents from the administration. You can't get in touch with the people who live upstairs. The places you can investigate are limited to this lobby and the surroundings outside. Why should I? Officer Ma glared at him. This is my territory. Such a terrifying attack occurred in my territory. I'll give you the right to do so. Please cooperate with our work. The agent who blocked the way seemed to be used to this kind of situation and said calmly, We have our duties. I hope Officer Ma can understand. Some things we can cooperate in private, and there's no need to report it. Once it's reported, you'll be the one who suffers. Don't embarrass everyone. Humph. Sir Ma suddenly sneered, and then nodded with his finger, turned around and left in an unparalleled manner. That's it. Officer Lin looked at his leader in disbelief. Old Ma said impatiently, What else can we do? In the afternoon, you and I were arranged to go home to rest. Old Liu, the director, is like a child in front of the administration. He's useless. What can we do? But if we don't investigate, we won't be able to do anything. We don't even know if this attack was targeted at the transcendence upstairs. Lin Feng shook his head. Then why did you ask us to come here? To clean the scene? You're right. We're here to clean the scene. Old Ma shrugged and said, Their manpower seems to be very tight. In the end, this matter still falls on our heads. You don't have to complain. We are all working for the country. Lin Feng said indignantly, But we can't let this murderer get away with it, right? To cause such destruction, the murderer must have a powerful weapon. It's dangerous for such a person to hide in our city. Sir Ma, you can't be a coward. Who said I'm a coward? I'm waiting for an opportunity, you know? Old Ma hummed. What opportunity? Old Ma suddenly said, Isn't the opportunity here? At this moment, Old Ma's eyes focused, and he saw a one-armed strong man carrying a big box walking towards them, to the side of a young man. Old Wang, what's this? I chased him all the way, but I didn't find him, but I found this thing. It seems to be the weapon he used to attack. Wang Hu threw the box directly on the ground. Both of you, can we take a look at this thing? Sir Ma came to Bu Gao with his police badge. Just a few glances, I won't waste your time. Bu Gao thought for a moment and said, Okay, you can take a look, but you can't take it away. I suspect that this is the weapon used by the murderer. You can't take it away. I can't take it away either. Old Ma squatted down with a smile and opened the suitcase directly. He recognized what was inside at a glance. Good heavens! Officer Ma's face changed slightly. Who is so powerful to be able to get such a thing? Sir Ma seemed to be too excited and directly picked up the parts and looked at them carefully. Hey, what are you doing? Didn't I say that you can only look and not touch? Bu Gao suddenly stopped him. Officer Lin came up instantly. His eyes were filled with little stars, and he said enthusiastically, Agent Bu. Agent Bu, right? Wow, how did you become an agent at such a young age? The person I admire the most in my life is a young and promising man like you. Agent Bu, can you give me an autograph? Don't think that I can. Oh, where to sign? It's not as good as you say. Luck. Of course, I have the ability, Wang, who couldn't stand it anymore, shook his head and walked to Ma Hao, saying indifferently, Did you see anything? This thing seems to be. Officer Ma wasn't sure. It seems to have just been made. It's very rough. Just made. Chapter 1931. Officer Lin turned the white shirt upside down and put it on again reluctantly, while tidying up his sleeves. Sir Ma, have you found anything? He asked directly. Bu Gao had already collected the suitcase and was about to submit it to his superior. The police officers seemed to only be able to clean up the scene. This rocket launcher was made by hand. Ma Hao frowned and said, This is not good news. What do you mean? Lin Feng asked confusedly. Ma Hao said directly, Think about it. If the murderer just got the weapons from the arms dealers, although it's dangerous, we still know who the arms dealers are. We can find some clues no matter what. Besides, it's impossible for there to be no news about such a large scale of arms. However, if it's made by a person himself, the situation is different. Lin Feng reacted instantly. We've lost the clue. Not only that, Sir Ma said worriedly. I'm afraid we're facing a criminal with a profound knowledge of explosives. If he can make a rocket launcher, he can make more, or even other high-power explosives. Lin Feng rubbed his head and said, every time I handle a case, I'm most afraid of encountering such a technical criminal. It's not that there's no clue. Sir Ma thought for a while and said, since the one-armed man from the administration brought back such a suitcase, it means that the murderer left immediately after attacking the hostel. The one-armed man tracked the murderer all the way to the footbridge, and then the suitcase was thrown down. The distance is not short. I understand. Officer Lin suddenly shivered and said quickly, I'll check all the streets, shops, and even the car's recording devices along the way. Go ahead. Ma Hao nodded. It looks like we're going to be busy today. Don't let the experts from the administration underestimate our professional ability. Got it. I promise I won't let you down. Things happen one after another. Yin Xiaoxi, who had just transported the bodies of her colleagues back, was in an extremely bad mood. Attack? Section Chief Yin, who had just returned to his office, frowned after hearing his subordinate's report. When did this happen? At lunchtime. Who was on duty at that time? It's a junior agent called Bu Bu Gao, and there are a few other logistical support. The subordinate quickly said, many things have happened, so there should have been more than 3 junior agents on guard duty, but they were temporarily reassigned. All right, I know. Yin Xiaoxi waved her hand. Let this Bu Bu Gao come and see me. Also, how was the investigation of the murdered non-Earth priest? For now, there's no progress. This is the last set of photos taken when the drone was destroyed. Yin Xiaoxi said coldly, they might have something to do with Boss Fu's death. Besides, I suspect that they've already entered the city. Take it. You must find these guys as soon as possible. The subordinate took a look at the photocopied photos and was immediately stunned. This looks like a Western dragon. Black dragon. Yin Xiaoxi nodded. On the way back, I've already contacted the Magician Association. They'll be sending a representative over soon. This matter has to be done in secret. We can't let the other transcendent ambassadors know about it. I'll do it well. The subordinate nodded. After assigning a few more tasks, Yin Xiaoxi went in search of the evil god of Fire Cloud. The evil god of Fire Cloud was the chief commander of this extraordinary summit, although Yin Xiaoxi was in charge of all minor tasks. However, she did not find the evil god immediately. She was told that the evil god had run out of the city early in the morning, saying that it was going to the nearby mountains to pick some herbs. Yin Xiaoxi had no choice but to return to the office. According to the schedule, she was supposed to go to the conference venue in the afternoon to do a final security check. However, Section Chief Yin did not have the mood to do that, so she arranged for 2 reliable subordinates to go in her place. Section Chief, the Magician Association's representative, is here. They're just downstairs. At this moment, the secretary pushed open the door and reported, it's a lady named Elizabeth and her personal assistant. Yin Xiaoxi took a deep breath and said slowly, let them in. The person who came was not Qi Yin or the Ice Tower Master. It was Elizabeth, which made Yin Xiaoxi quite surprised. Because according to the information, this girl named Elizabeth was rumored to be the last disciple of the Radiance Tower Master, the strongest Tower Master in the inhuman domain. A mischievous head poked out from the flower trough on the sidewalk, followed by the head of a girl with big eyes. She sized them up. Uncle Pangolin, what are we looking at? Chill. Don't talk, those guys might still be nearby. Lower your voice. Oh, okay. The little butterfly nodded seriously at this time, and then asked curiously, but, Uncle Pangolin, who are those people? Why are you with them? The pangolin had no choice but to explain what happened to him. They seem to be here for Lord Long. They must be up to no good. Fortunately, I was smart and found a chance to save you. Otherwise, you would have fallen into those guys' hands like me. Let me tell you, those guys are very fierce, especially the one in white. He even broke my hand. Uncle Pangolin, you're injured? Yes, I'm in so much pain. Ayaya, it hurts again. Qian, help me rub it. Yes, 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 that's it. My chest hurts too. I must have been knocked down. I need to rub my chest too, otherwise I'll die from the pain. The little butterfly slapped the pangolin's head and said, I'm angry. Don't. Don't. I'm not in pain anymore. It's amazing. The pangolin smiled awkwardly. The little butterfly stood up from the flower trough and said, No, they're here for Sister Long. I have to tell her immediately. Then, the little butterfly picked up the phone. The phone was connected in an instant. Luo Dance didn't hear Kelowna Shinryu's voice at first, but the clicking sound of the mechanical keyboard. If you have something to report, I'm dismissed. I'm very busy. Sister Long, don't tell me you're typing on the keyboard, holding the mouse, and holding the phone between your neck? Spit it out. The little butterfly gave a start and covered the phone with her hand, asking in a low voice, Sister Long, are you okay? What can happen to me? If you keep dilly-dallying, I'll really be in trouble. F***CK. Who can give me big blood, big blood? I want big blood. Is there no one outside? No, there's no one. Spit it out. Then that's okay. Luo Dance thought for a while and said, I'll come back later. What do you want to eat tonight? I'll buy it. Fried chicken, forget it. Kelowna Shinryu at the other end of the phone suddenly changed the topic. Eat something healthy? Let's eat grass tonight. Luo Dance felt amazing that Sister Long actually changed her temperament. The little butterfly who was comforted suddenly showed a motherly smile. Okay, I know. Beep. What would Master Long say? The pangolin asked uneasily at this time. Sister Long said, Nothing happened. The little butterfly shook her head and said, She's at home, busy with something. It seems that no one is looking for her. Uncle Pangolin, are you mistaken? Is that so? The pangolin gave a start. In fact, I don't understand what these guys are talking about. Maybe I misheard? Forget it. Since Master Long said nothing happened, then there must be no problem. In this case, I won't stay here. Anyway, I'll go to find some old friends in the city. The pangolin left hurriedly. The little butterfly blinked her eyes. What was she going to do? Right, walk the dog, walk Mr. Fafner. Thinking of Mr. Fafner, Luo Dance quickly turned over and looked for him in the flower trough, only to find that the rope leading to Fafner's clue was untied. Oh no, Mr. Fafner is missing. Elizabeth was arranged to a small reception room, accompanied by Zhong Luoyue, who had just returned to the hotel. But now Zhong Luoyue wore a white half-mask that covered her eyes. Why do you wear a mask? My family has some connections in the capital. Zhong Luoyue said indifferently. The administration may have my personal information. I've been missing for some time. It's not good to appear in the sight of the administration at this time. How about this? When you introduce me, you could just call me you. The vampire girl nodded her head. Sorry to keep you two waiting. At this time, Yin Xiaoxi came in with one of her subordinates. After a brief introduction, this time, I invited you two here because I hope your association can give me some advice. Yin Xiaoxi didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. She asked someone to put the photocopied photos on the table. Do you recognize the creature in the photos? Zhong Luoyue took the photos and handed them to Elizabeth. She also looked at them. It seems to be a dragon, the vampire girl said hesitantly, then frowned. Section Chief Yin, where did you take these photos? Before that, I hope you two can answer my question first. Yin Xiaoxi said seriously. This is about a vicious incident. I know your association plays the role of order in the inhuman domain, so I hope you two can adhere to the principle of fairness and justice. Elizabeth didn't know how to respond. Zhong Luoyue said indifferently at this time. Section Chief Yin, I also have some photos here. I don't know if your association can give us some useful information, but we can't tell you the reason for the time being. I hope your association can adhere to the principle of international friendship and mutual benefit and help us. Ms. Yu, right? Yin Xiaoxi squinted and chuckled. We have a patrolling drone that was shot down from high up in the sky. This is the last photo taken by the drone. This black dragon and the few people on it can't be found in the information. Zhong Luoyue said slowly. The inhuman domain is a huge system. There are many inhumans and their descendants living in it. Even our association may not be able to record all of them, let alone those who choose to stay in the present world and not enter the inhuman domain. Section Chief Yin, we may not be able to give you any useful information. We'll do our best. Yin Xiaoxi smiled and said, for the transcendence, it's like crossing the river by feeling the stones. Everything is unknown, and we're in a fog. Maybe sometimes we can't really see the situation clearly. At this time, it might not be suitable for us to advance based on past experience. Zhong Luiyue thought for a while, and then whispered a few words in Wai Lisabeth's ear. The vampire girl nodded and immediately picked up the photo and looked at it seriously. This vampire girl had the authority to open the library of the Radiance Tower's 103,000 books. Aside from the books that she had to study, the vampire girl liked to read books about all sorts of anecdotes. Furthermore, the vampire's powerful brain also gave her the ability to remember everything she saw. If I'm not wrong, Wai Lisabeth thought for a while and said, this should be the legendary Black Dragon Ajuin. Black Dragon Ajuin? Section Chief Yin frowned. Black Dragon Ajuin was the companion of the former Inhuman Sword Saint, Duke Roland. Wai Lisabeth nodded and said, Duke Roland was a legendary hero of the Inhuman domain. At the same time, he was also a powerful dragon knight. However, Duke Roland had passed away for some time. Rumor has it that Black Dragon Ajuin disappeared after Duke Roland passed away. There hasn't been any news about Black Dragon Ajuin for a long time. Then what about the other people on this Black Dragon? Yin Xiaoxi asked. While Lisabeth shook her head and said, I'm sorry, I really don't know these people. However, if Section Chief Yin allows, please let me take these photos. I'll contact the association's headquarters to check it after I go back. Of course. Yin Xiaoxi nodded and directly handed the photos to Wai Lisabeth. Then, Miss Wai Lisabeth, can you tell me more about Black Dragon Ajuin and Duke Roland? Sword Saint, Duke Roland, Black Dragon Ajuin, legendary heroes who became famous on the battlefield of the European continent 100 years ago. Their deeds were widely spread in the inhuman domain. It was not secret. With Zhong Luiyue's permission, Wai Lisabeth began to talk about some of the things she knew. Section Chief is now meeting important guests. Please wait for a while. I'll call you when it's ready. In the hall of the temporary headquarters, Bu Gao listened nervously. It's okay. I'll just wait here. How could Bu Gao, who wanted to become the agency's star of tomorrow, sit still when he was invited by Section Chief Yin of the agency? He changed into a new set of black clothes and combed his hair to look like an adult's. He even sprayed some cologne and cleaned his leather shoes. He quickly dragged Wang Hu over. Section Chief Yin is meeting you. Why did he drag me over? Wang Hu asked, puzzled. Old Wang, this is a good opportunity to show your face in front of Section Chief Yin. Bu Gao said earnestly, you can't just be a logistician for the rest of your life, right? Look at me. Bu Gao patted his chest. Look at me. I look like I'm going to be promoted step by step. How can I stay in the position of a junior agent? I'll become an intermediate agent, a senior agent, and a senior agent. You have to catch up to me first. We're the stars of tomorrow. We can't lose one of us. Not interested. Wang Hu shook his head. I don't like it here. I'll wait for you in the parking lot outside. Then, ignoring Bu Gao's shouts, Wang Hu walked straight out of the hall of the temporary headquarters. Bu Gao had no choice but to mutter, there's no other way. I can only mention old Wang's name when the time comes and try to get him an official establishment. Facing the glass door, Bu Gao began to tidy up his adult-like hairstyle again. Old Wang Hu bought a bottle of vitamin milk from a convenience store outside the headquarters. He took out a straw and sat in the flower trough outside the parking lot. His eyes were sometimes blank, and sometimes he looked straight ahead. He seemed to be thinking about something and was in a daze. Can I take a look at your arm? Suddenly, a man in a white suit with a peachwood sword in his hand suddenly appeared beside Wang Hu. Wang Hu raised his head in confusion and frowned. He didn't understand what this guy was saying. You don't understand? The thin man in the white suit also frowned. He then slowly reached out his hand and approached Wang Hu. Wang Hu locked his eyes on the man's palm and remained motionless, until the thin man in the white suit finally grasped his wrist, Wang Hu still didn't move. He didn't feel the other party's malice for the time being, so he decided to wait and see what this guy wanted to do. After the man in the white suit successfully grabbed Wang Hu's arm, his eyes lit up, and then his other hand directly touched Wang Hu's arm. The man in the white suit grabbed Wang Hu's arm with both hands, lifted it, and carefully wiped it a few times, kneaded it. What a well-tempered overlord's arm. The man in the white suit looked at Wang Hu at this time and muttered to himself, "No less muscle, the limit of the human body, old Wang." Wang Hu finally frowned and looked at the man in the white suit. This guy, what does he mean by touching me all the time? Hashtag, 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 hashtag PS1. Recommend the old demon child's new book. I'm the only one in the world who doesn't know that I'm a master. Equals PS2. Thank you to my book friend, Jasper Yin, for your cuteness. I'm a leg accessory that you can play with today. PS3, 0 to 1, PS4. As usual. Chapter 1932. Although he didn't know what this guy was talking about, Wang Hu's instinctive disgust made him shake his arm, intending to pull it back. However, to Wang Hu's surprise, his arm couldn't bounce off the man's palm. This guy's fingers were like iron pliers, still pinching Wang Hu's arm. A trace of ferocity flashed in Wang Hu's eyes. The man in white clearly felt this trace of ferocity and was even more surprised. "You are an excellent warrior. I can feel the primitive beast in you. You are really a terrifying warrior, but what are you confused about? This is not the real you. What are you talking about?" Wang Hu frowned. The feeling of disgust in his heart had climbed to the limit. Without thinking, he directly punched the man in white. At this time, the man in white opened his palms and overlapped them, directly blocking Wang Hu's fist. The man in white took 2 steps back before he could stand firm. Not only was he not angry, but he was even happier, and his eyes were shining. "I was right. You are a natural warrior." Wang Hu still didn't understand, but after the punch, regardless of whether it was effective or not, the feeling of irritation in his heart decreased slightly. He frowned. "I don't know you. Don't provoke me if there's nothing. Sometimes I can't control myself and use violence." The man in white didn't understand Wang Hu's words, but this didn't affect his usual view. A true expert is completely capable of transmitting his will through his fists. The man in white took a deep breath. "You are a natural warrior. You can feel what my fist wants to express. Take this." A punch came. At this time, Wang Hu's eyes instantly focused, and his only remaining arm seemed to be activated, clenching his fist all of a sudden. In the face of the man in white's fist, a sense of irritation exploded in Wang Hu's heart. Finally, Wang Hu made a move. He took the opportunity and kicked the man in white's fist away. That's right, he used a kick. "You." The man in white seemed to be in disbelief. "Why didn't you punch?" However, Wang Hu ignored him. He instantly exerted strength in his legs and kicked the man in the abdomen. Thud! The strength of this kick was extremely shocking. It actually sent the man in white flying 2 meters away, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, the irritation in Wang Hu's heart subsided a little. "I said, don't mess with me." Wang Hu said coldly, "Goodbye." With that, Wang Hu turned around and left. Before he left, he still remembered to return the bottle of Vitasol to the boss of the little merchandise store. However, an inexplicable sense of irritation made Wang Hu unwilling to stay in the agency's temporary command center any longer. He simply sent a text message to Boo Boo Gao, saying that he would return to the guest house where he stood guard first. At this time, the man in white got up and scathed. He waved his hand and patted the dust on his clothes. He looked at Wang Hu's back and said loudly, "You are a warrior. You will be a warrior for life. We will meet again as long as you are still a warrior." Wang Hu heard the man in white shout, but he ignored him and walked straight away. The man in white waited until Wang Hu had completely disappeared before he chuckled. He looked up at the building in front of him. This should be the address. "Excuse me, who are you looking for?" Of course, the lobby of the command center was not a place anyone could enter as they wished. The man in white did not seem to have any intention of barging in and was stopped at the gate guard position. "I am waiting for someone. the man in white said indifferently. Waiting for someone? The agent at the gate guard position was startled. He naturally had the ability to communicate with foreign friends, but he was really curious at this time. Excuse me, who are you waiting for? The man in white used the peachwood sword as a crutch, closed his eyes, and stood directly in front of the gate of the command center. Someone strong. F***. What kind of trick is this Chinibu uncle playing? The guard subconsciously picked up the phone at this time. A few people are here. Someone is causing trouble here. Half an hour had passed since the meeting with the representative of the Magician Association. While Elizabeth, Yin Xiaoxi learned a lot about Black Dragon Audiobook from Why Elizabeth, but she still had no clue as to why Audiobook would appear here. No one knew why a legendary-level creature like the Inhuman Domain had barged into the city where the summit meeting was being held. Yin Xiaoxi was filled with an ominous feeling, as if something bad was happening one after another. There was a knock on the door. After the subordinate entered, he did not speak immediately. Yin Xiaoxi understood and looked at Wai Elizabeth and Ms. Yu, nodding and saying, "Both of you, I have some work to do." At this time, Zhong Luoyue took the opportunity to say, "In that case, Section Chief Yin, we will take our leave first. As for the identity of the person in the photo, we will verify it as soon as possible. We won't disturb Section Chief Yin from your work." "Okay then, I will arrange a car to send the two of you away." Yin Xiaoxi originally wanted to keep them for a little longer, but now she had no choice but to agree and directly left the small meeting room with her subordinate. I still have a lot of things to say about Black Dragon Audiobook. At this time, the vampire girl was puzzled. Moreover, isn't this a very good opportunity to interact more with the people from the Divine Land Administration? This should be good for our association, right? Zhong Luoyue rubbed Wai Elizabeth's head and said, "You've already said everything in one go. What else can you say in the future? If you don't finish speaking, there will be more opportunities to meet. Regardless of whether the people from the other forces know that we came to the authority today, sooner or later, someone will find out." Wai Elizabeth nodded and asked, "Do you mean that I only say a little bit every time?" "More or less." Zhong Luoyue smiled and said, "If you don't understand, just write it down first. You'll understand slowly. Just go back. There's no need to stay here. We've actually gained a lot today." In fact, she still did not understand, but as long as it was you who said it, there should be no problem. You always got along well with everyone and was able to quickly form friendships with them. While Elizabeth was extremely envious of that. This person called Miss Yu. See if you can find out about her background. In the corridor, Yin Xiaoxi suddenly instructed her subordinate. The last disciple of the first Tower Master seems easier to get to know. This Miss Yu is really like a fox. I know what to do. The subordinate nodded. Why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Yin Xiaoxi asked. The subordinate quickly said, just now, a foreign man caused trouble outside the command center. A few of our agents, including a senior agent, were injured. In the end, we had no choice but to use some equipment to capture the troublemaker. Yin Xiaoxi instantly stopped in her tracks and frowned. How many exactly? The subordinate lowered his head and stammered. A total of 3 senior agents, 7 intermediate agents, 13 junior agents, and more than 10 supporters. 30 to 40 people, and we had no choice but to use our equipment to capture him. Yin Xiaoxi's expression changed. No, Section Chief, we don't know where this guy came from. He only used a wooden sword, but we couldn't stop him. The subordinate broke out in cold sweat. I'm sorry, where is he? I'll go and see him. Yin Xiaoxi frowned. In a place like this where all supernatural beings were forbidden, someone who could still have such terrifying combat power was definitely a terrifying martial artist. We've captured him and locked him in the interrogation room downstairs. At this moment, another subordinate hurried over and said from afar, Section Chief, it's confirmed that the troublemaker who was captured is one of the people in the photo. He's wearing a white suit. Section Chief, Yin Xiaoxi had already strode out with a cold expression. Mr. Fafner, under the bench in the park. Mr. Fafner, inside the open trash can. Mr. Fafner, where are you? In the temporary pet toilet by the roadside. The little butterfly monster was looking for Mr. Fafner everywhere, but Luo Dance couldn't find him all the way. But the little butterfly monster wasn't in a hurry. Perhaps Mr. Fafner would go back by himself, because when Mr. Fafner first arrived, he would often go missing. But the next day, he would appear in his wooden house and loudly curse Sister Long, and on the street, Luo Dance suddenly stopped. She saw a young man in black and a fat girl standing in the waiting area in front of the red light. They looked around, as if they didn't know what to do with the current environment. Aren't they those people before? Luo Dance gave a start, subconsciously walking to the young man and the fat girl who lowered her head and didn't know what to do. "Excuse me, is there anything I can do for you?" The fat girl raised her head timidly, while the young man in black frowned and immediately said, "You seem to be the one beside Fafner." "I'm Luo Dance." Butterfly Monster smiled at this time, a smile like a flower. The black-clothed young man was suddenly startled. He opened his mouth slightly, as if he had been struck by lightning. He muttered to himself, "I'm going to die. I'm going to die. How can there be such a beautiful smile in this world? I'm like, hello, I'm Ajuin." The young man in black rushed forward at this time. "This is the abbreviation. My full name is Little Field. Remember it. Listen, Jose San Diego Francesco de Paula K. I'm Parizio Crito Riz Blasco Leia. How about we find a place to sit down first?" Butterfly Monster smiled at this time, tilting her head. "It doesn't seem very good to stand here." "Oh," the young man in black instantly nodded with joy. "Okay, we'll go wherever you want." Looking at the cheerful young man in black and the timid fat girl, Butterfly Monster couldn't help but think, it seems to be a very interesting two people. Then let's go there." Butterfly Monster pointed at a beautifully decorated dessert shop across the road at this time. "I don't know if I'll meet Sister Yu Yi here today. Yesterday, I chatted with Sister Yu Yi in this dessert shop." Sir Ma sat in the car. Lin Feng was checking the surveillance videos of their shops from the nearby shops one by one. Officer Ma's eyes were scattered, seemingly a little tired, and he saw a good dessert shop diagonally across the road. A few people just walked in. A very fat girl? Old Ma shook his head, thinking whether to pack some desserts to feed Mrs. Ma after work. But he didn't know when he could get off work. Middle-aged men have so many worries. Sir Ma opened the window a little irritably, preparing to light a cigarette. Just as the cigarette was about to reach his mouth, suddenly a hand reached over with a lighter, lit it. "Thank you," Mahoud said subconsciously. Looking up, his lips trembled, and the cigarette fell down. "Yin?" The one who lit the cigarette was Yi Yin. The door opened and closed. Yi Yin had already sat in the back seat of the car at this time. In his words, the weather outside was too hot, so he got in the car to take advantage of the air conditioner. "You brat. Last time you ran away without saying a word. What did you come back?" Mahoud was surprised and happy at this time, but in the end, he was more happy. "They sent me and some other colleagues to investigate something," Yi Yin said casually at this time. Mahoud frowned, tentatively asking, "Is it because of the meeting?" "No." Yi Yin shook his head and said, "The meeting is handled by many countries and agencies with headaches. I came here this time to investigate an organization that has recently appeared." "Well, how can I help you?" Mahoud thought about it, and he immediately understood the purpose of Yi Yan's visit. This brat was always the first to solve a case. "In fact, you may have begun to contact this organization," Yi Yan said seriously at this time. "I suspect that the explosion that happened in the west of the city at noon was the work of this organization." "What did you say?" Sir Ma was shocked for a moment, and his whole body bounced up and then directly hit the roof of the car. He rubbed his head and said with a dignified expression, "Don't keep me in suspense." Yi Yan said they call themselves Ice Cream Pudding. They specialize in hunting some special creatures and humans who are suspected to have awakened superpowers. "Ice pudding what?" "Ice cream pudding." Yi Yan shrugged and said, "This group of people seems to have a deep hatred for transcendence and inhumans. In fact, the first case happened in a small town in France. We found the body of a vampire nailed to a cross. There were a total of 108 wooden nails on it, and the method was quite cruel. Similar incidents had occurred many times during this period of time. The victims had all been brutally tortured to death. I came back this time because there is information that this ice cream pudding organization seems to have come here. In other words, Mahoud said with a dignified expression, there's a group of anti-transcendent terrorists in my territory. Yin said, wrong. It should be said that there's a group of anti-transcendent terrorists in this city where transcendents are banned. So, why are they called ice cream and pudding? Ice cream pudding. Hashtag, 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 hashtag PS. 1/1. Chapter 1933. When Officer Lin came back, there was a smell of cigarette smoke in the car, even hazy. Why don't you open the window? Lin Feng hurriedly opened the door and window, but Ma Haud seemed to be thinking about something, as if he didn't hear it. After a while, Lin Feng got on the car again and asked tentatively, Sir Ma? Oh, nothing. I'm thinking about where to buy milk powder. My feed is used up. Ma Haud shook his head and immediately asked, by the way, did you find anything? Lin Feng had to shake his head. Nothing, but I copied down the license plates of several cars parked nearby. I hope the recorder in their cars can find something. Officer Ma nodded and then got off the car directly. You go back to the station first. I have something to do and we'll call you later. Sir Ma, Sir Ma. Officer Ma hurriedly stopped the taxi at this time and then got on directly. Officer Lin had no choice but to drive back alone. In a dessert shop near the street, the young man in black gestured and the fat girl whispered one or two sentences from time to time. After a while, Luo Dance finally figured out some of the causes and consequences. There was a piece of ice cream pudding in the mouth of the little butterfly monster. She loved this dessert the most. It was cold and melted in her mouth. That is to say, you were caught by a man named Farrell to deal with some terrible enemies. Luo Dance thought for a while and said, then, you came to Sister Long for this reason? The young man in black, Audubon, kept nodding. Farrell is an old lunatic. He can do anything. You have to be careful. But the Mr. Farrell you mentioned didn't seem to meet Sister Long, right? Luo Dance said, I just called her and she said nothing happened. Nothing? Ajuin couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment before shaking his head. We slipped away while Farlier was looking for trouble with those guys outside the hospital. I'm not sure what happened after that, but it should be a good thing that we didn't look for him, right? The little butterfly demon thought about it seriously and suddenly asked curiously, in that case, weren't Miss Leia and Mr. Ajuin kidnapped? That's right. We were kidnapped. Ajuin looked like a victim. We're really pitiful. We were kidnapped to this foreign country and had our powers banned here. Now we're penniless and homeless. As Leia listened, she suddenly felt that something was amiss. She subconsciously looked at Ajuin, only to see Ajuin continue to spit saliva everywhere. We can only stay in this city for the time being. If we leave, that madman Farrell will continue to kidnap us once he finds us. You see, we are no match for this old madman. Only here can we barely contend with him, who is also unable to use his power. That's not what you said before. Didn't you say to return to the inhuman realm immediately and hide in a place where Farrell can't find us? It sounds really pitiful. The little butterfly demon nodded sympathetically. Don't you think so? Ajuin said emotionally. Leia and I, we're living peacefully in our own homes. We can't even bear to kill a rabbit. Don't look at me like that. I actually eat grass and never kill. Look at Leia. She's harmless. She's the type who would be afraid, even if she picked up a kitchen knife. The chubby girl could only awkwardly put away the sword she had been holding on her back. Then what can I help you with? The little butterfly demon thought for a while and asked. Ajuin quickly said, Miss, if you can take Leia and me in, we'll be eternally grateful. Don't worry, we won't freeload. I can do any kind of rough work. My endurance is great. Once we collect enough money, we'll leave this place. When Yin Xiaoxi came to the interrogation room where the troublemaker was locked up, she saw the man in white being restrained by a circle of flat steel rings. Not only that, the man's hands and feet were also handcuffed with special shackles. This was already the treatment of an extremely serious criminal, and an extremely serious criminal of the administration. In the room, There were 4 mid-level investigators with special equipment in their hands, guarding the white-clothed man at all times. However, the white-clothed man seemed to be rather quiet at the moment, resting with his eyes closed. There was a wooden sword on the table. Yin Xiaoxi didn't say anything. She picked up the wooden sword and sized it up. This was a wooden sword made of high-quality mahogany core. It looked extraordinary, but the mahogany sword was completely different from the foreign man in white. "You can leave first." Section Chief Yin waved her hand. The agents nodded and walked out. They soon came to another room and looked at everything in the interrogation room through a one-way mirror. The man in white opened his eyes slowly. At this moment, Yin Xiaoxi slowly spread out the photos on the table and said, "These are the photos that we took from a drone that was shot down. Without a doubt, the person in these photos is you. Why did you destroy our drone? Which transcendent power do you belong to?" After the man in white sized Yin Xiaoxi up, he suddenly said, "You're also a natural warrior, but it's a waste. It's really a waste." Yin Xiaoxi frowned slightly. "We found out that the black dragon in this photo is called Audiobook. He's the partner of the inhuman domain, as Sword Sage, Duke Roland. Then, who are the other 2 women?" The man in white said, "Why did you give up your talent? Do you know how many people are born without talent like yours?" Section Chief Yin moved closer and stared at the man in white with narrowed eyes. Then, she spread out 3 more photos on the table. The photos were of Fu Mingxian and the other 2 agents who died tragically in the small valley. "Have you seen these 3 people before?" The man in white closed his eyes and didn't respond. "It's fine if you don't want to say." Yin Xiaoxi said calmly, "We have all the time in the world. The administration has a place called the Heavenly Prison. Ever since the administration was established, those who were locked in the Heavenly Prison, be it big demons or powerful demons, have never been able to get out." The man in white remained unmoved. Yin Xiaoxi chuckled and said, "Recently, we've been planning to build a new transcendent prison in this forbidden city. I think the new transcendent prison will be able to hold powerful transcendents like you. It's up to you if you want to tell me. The next time I see you, it'll be when I think of you." "Shinryu from the east," the man in white suddenly said. Yin Xiaoxi frowned. "Why is this guy related to Shinryu from Kelowna?" "I'm looking for Shinryu from the east." The man in white spoke again. "But maybe it's not Shinryu from the east. It's just a person that Shinryu from the east wants me to look for. Maybe it's a test." "What do you mean?" Yin Xiaoxi asked with a frown. The man in white said calmly, "Before coming here, I went to Shinryu's hospital and bumped into a mysterious woman there. She gave me an address and gave me a photo of a person. She said that the person was Shinryu from the east." Yin Xiaoxi's face stiffened, seemingly having thought of something. The man in white said, "I was thinking if the person she wants me to look for is Shinryu from the east, or if the woman herself is Shinryu from the east. She wants me to look for someone else just to transfer the responsibility. Of course, I'm indeed interested in the person she wants me to look for. So, no matter what, I'm here." "Is this the person she wants you to look for?" Yin Xiaoxi whipped out her mobile phone and showed him a photo. The man in white glanced at it and nodded. Indeed, Yin Xiaoxi could not help but laugh wryly. "She's capable of doing it. That woman is indeed capable of doing such a thing." Advisor Long from the agency. "Why are you looking for Kelowna's Shinryu?" Yin Xiaoxi asked with a sigh of relief. "I'm looking for a partner," the man in white said bluntly. "A strong partner to fight against those guys with me." "What kind of guys?" Yin Xiaoxi asked instinctively. The man in white said, "You don't have the right to know for now. Perhaps you'll find out when you face your identity as a warrior again. I'm not looking down on you, but I don't want you to stop because of fear before you regain your glory as a warrior. That's an enemy that can bring true despair. The more you're like this, the more I want to find out." Section Chief Yin sneered. "But since you don't want to tell me, I don't plan to force you. Compared to your unproven reason, I'm more interested in your answer to another question. Have you seen the 3 people in the photo?" The man in white shook his head and said calmly, "They're dead, aren't they? Besides, they're your comrades. You think I killed them, right?" "Indeed, you were the one who killed them, right?" Yin Xiaoxi asked coldly. "I told you, I don't know them." The man in white said expressionlessly, I can only sense the pain and anger in you. No matter what, you can't hide the feeling of losing an important partner and comrade. Yin Xiaoxi opened her mouth and made eye contact with the mysterious man in white. She seemed to have sensed something at this moment, but her senses were blocked by the thick gauze. "Don't tell me you're also," she said. Yin Xiaoxi came out, but she could not get a single word out of the man in white. "Section Chief, send them to the interrogation room. I don't believe they'll be able to say anything under our interrogation. This kind of person's mental state has surpassed their physical state." Yin Xiaoxi shook her head. No matter how much pain they're going through physically, this kind of person's mental state will not be shaken. Using torture will only waste our energy. This guy clearly has something to do with Boss Fu's death. Are we just going to leave him be? The subordinate said angrily. After some thought, Yin Xiaoxi said, "In order to pry open their mouths, we'll have to start from their mental weakness. Is my master not back yet?" Consultant Hui Yun left a message this morning saying that she went to the suburbs to pick herbs. She hasn't been back since. The subordinate said helplessly, "Her mobile phone is switched off. We can't contact her at all, but her location is normal. She's indeed at Longtu Mountain in the suburbs." Longtu Mountain? Yin Xiaoxi seemed to have recalled something. "I remember that Longtu Mountain seems to be..." That's right. According to the investigation of the Earth Vein Survey team, the Dragon Head Mountain in the outskirts seems to be the origin of the underground spirit vein in this area. Therefore, the spirit energy around the Dragon Head Mountain is quite dense. Sometimes, you can even find some good precious medicinal herbs. "Okay, got it." Yin Xiaoxi nodded. "Inform me as soon as Master returns." "Section Chief, there's one more thing." The subordinate quickly said, "The junior investigator, Bu Gao, whom you asked my mother to call over, has been waiting for a long time." "Section Chief, do you still want to see him?" "This was another case, the case of the hostel being bombed. Ask him to come to my office." Yin Xiaoxi looked at the time on her watch. "Give him 10 minutes." In the suburbs in the Longtu Mountain area, a silhouette quickly traversed through the mountain forest. From time to time, it would let out a long whistle. Although the sound was loud, it miraculously did not alarm the small animals that lived in the mountain forest. It was more like the sound of a flute, a sound that allowed the animals to be quiet. The figure stopped abruptly. "It's okay to move my muscles." Huiyin, evil god, smiled. It was as if he was carrying a few mountains in the city. For someone of his level of strength, even walking was difficult. It would be better for him to go to the suburbs from time to time to release his excess energy. "Is this the place?" Huiyin, evil god, looked at the bottomless hole in front of him and immediately jumped into it. The deeper he went, the steeper the hole became. The sharp stone edges could even cut his skin easily. Such a dangerous place, even the gods would not be willing to come. After spending a lot of effort, Huiyin, evil god, finally fell into the depths of the hole. He already felt the flow of an exceptionally pure spiritual power. Huiyin, evil god's eyes lit up. His superhuman touch allowed him to easily follow the flow of this spiritual power, moving forward in the maze-like hole. It didn't take long for Fire Cloud Sketch to see a set of azure river hanging in the air. At the location of the Earth Vein, there was a huge azure river with no end in sight. A long river of spiritual power. Sure enough, it's here. Huiyin, evil god's eyes lit up at this time. He immediately covered his body with true power and jumped into this long river of spiritual power. This kind of pure spiritual power, for an ordinary person, was like a big poison, instantly able to burst a person's body. Huiyin, evil god, was a martial artist's limit. The amount of true power that his body could hold was already the limit. He simply could not increase it by much. Suddenly rushing into this kind of pure spiritual power river would cause the true power in his body to become chaotic. Finding this place was only Huiyin, evil god's conjecture. The city's restrictive spell could be caused by the changes in the underground spiritual veins of this area. In the capital, there was a large defensive array laid down by the blind mister of the cloth path when he was young, using several underground dragon veins as the foundation. Although this large array could not achieve the same restrictive spell as this city, But when it was activated, it was able to suppress invading enemies to a large extent. Therefore, when an evil god had such a conjecture, restrictive spell should not be something that could be done by human power. But if it was combined with the power of heaven and earth, the spiritual veins of the earth, perhaps it could be done. There's someone. While he was thinking, an evil god saw a figure in the depths of this long river of spiritual power. A bald man with purple eyebrows sitting cross-legged in the depths of this long river of spiritual power? This guy, could it be that he was the main culprit that caused the city's restrictive spell? An evil god's eyes congealed. In an instant, he activated his true power and rushed towards this mysterious bald man with purple eyebrows in the middle of the long river of spiritual power. If I were you, I wouldn't get too close. This place is very dangerous. Suddenly, Huiyin, evil god, heard a voice. It was the voice of this mysterious man. Huiyin, evil god, instantly frowned. He instinctively felt a terrifying feeling descend. His body instantly tensed up, and he heard some strange sounds. It was like the sound of chains moving. What is this? At this moment, hundreds of chains with cold light actually appeared in front of Hua Yin, evil god. These chains were vertical, like water, flowing unceasingly, filling the surroundings of Hua Yin, evil god. Some chains even raised their heads. The front end was like a drill bit, slowly rotating at this moment, like a poisonous snake. These are the chains that protect me. At the end of the long river of spiritual power, the bald man sitting cross-legged slowly opened his eyes. At the same time, they are also the chains that punish me. Who the hell are you? Huiyin, evil god, frowned. These chains were incomparably strange. He was subconsciously afraid, but this bald man with purple eyebrows who opened his eyes gave him a completely different feeling. This bald man with purple eyebrows actually had a benevolent countenance, like an old monk. His face was actually faintly suffused with a benevolent expression. Hello, my name is Xiang Lu. Chapter 1934. Shang Liu. Hearing this name, Firecloud, evil god, couldn't help but frown. As one of the top advisors of the administration, he naturally had access to a large amount of Kelowna's secrets. Warriors weren't necessarily born intelligent, but at his level of strength, his six senses would naturally be incomparably powerful. His memories instantly became clear because of Shang Liu's name. It was said that because they were dissatisfied with the current state of the Yao race, the Shang Liu race, as a branch of the ancient Yao race, once launched a revolutionary movement. This movement ultimately ended in the Shang Liu race's crushing defeat. In the end, the Shang Liu race used their achievements since ancient times in exchange for the last bit of their bloodline. But the last bit of their bloodline had to be expelled from Kelowna forever. This matter was personally handled by Shinryu of Kelowna. Since then, there have been no more news about the Shang Liu race. You're Shang Liu? Firecloud, evil god, probed. The last descendant of the Shang Liu race that was expelled back then? How come you're here? The kind-looking man's gaze was calm. He even put his palms together in front of his chest, looking like a senior monk who had been deeply influenced by Buddhism. He slowly said, since you know about the Shang Liu race, your origin must not be simple. You don't have any Yao Qi or magic power. This is the true power of a warrior. I once heard that there was a powerful warrior in Kelowna who challenged the Dao Yao alliance by himself, called Firecloud. You must be Sir. That's right. Firecloud, evil god, said indifferently, then said, you should never be allowed to step into Kelowna. Why are you in this underground spirit vein river? Shang Liu calmly said, about a year ago, because I coveted the power of the earth vein here, I tried in vain to use the power of the earth vein to transform. In the end, I failed and was then trapped here to repent of my past and purify the evil in my heart. Firecloud, evil god, frowned. Who imprisoned you here? I can't mention its name. Xiang Lu smiled. But maybe you have the answer in your heart. Could it be Shinryu? Firecloud, evil god, muttered. This was the most reasonable reason he could think of. Originally, this city was Long Shirua's territory. This Xiang Lu is really an iron-headed kid who wants to do evil in the territory of Kelowna Shinryu. A year ago, there was no forbidden spell here, so he dared to be presumptuous. These chains. Fire Cloud, evil god, looked around at the chains that were still pointing at him. They gave him a strange and terrifying feeling all the time. They're here to watch over me, Xiang Lu said calmly. Of course, they also want to guard this place. They will not take the initiative to attack anyone unless the other party comes with bad intentions. Very powerful? Fire Cloud, evil god, narrowed his eyes. It's better to give it a try than to say so. Xiang Lu smiled and said, You look calm, but your heart is higher than the sky. All warriors have such arrogance. You can give it a try. I'm really a bit interesting. Fire Cloud, evil god, chuckled. He directly threw out a palm, condensing a cyclone in his palm with his supreme, true power. Like a palm covered with heavy armor, it fiercely hit one of the chains. However, this palm with great power couldn't break the chain. It was an equal match, but this was only one of the hundreds of chains. Fire Cloud, evil god's face changed slightly. He withdrew his palm and stepped back, looking at the chains in surprise. However, these chains didn't chase him, but still slowly flowed around Xiang Lu. Fire Cloud, evil god's eyes flashed a fierce light. He waved his left hand, and a faint roar of a tiger came out. He slowly raised his left arm, as if it was a peerless, murderous blade. In the middle of the chain flow, Xiang Lu, who was sitting quietly with his hands clasped together, showed a touch of surprise in his eyes. Then he frowned and muttered to himself, This looks like Tiger Soul Blade? A terrible sword light gathered on his left arm, and a huge fighting spirit surged out of Fire Cloud, evil god's body. The long river of spiritual energy at this time showed a partial boiling, and this boiling even spread crazily all the way. At this time, the left arm that should have been chopped off didn't come out. A drop of cold sweat slowly dripped down from the back of Fire Cloud, evil god's neck. Beside him, the awls at the front of hundreds of chains had already pointed at all the major acupoints on his body at the moment he couldn't react. They were only a few centimeters away from piercing his skin, from top to bottom. As long as he made the slightest movement, he would directly crash into the drill of these chains. He even seemed to see the bloody scene of his body being directly penetrated by these drill bits, turning into a sieve. The image that lingered in his mind made Fire Cloud, evil god's breathing quicken uncontrollably. The second drop of cold sweat slowly flowed down. The monstrous fierce flame on Fire Cloud, evil god's body, subsided little by little. The sword light on his left arm also weakened, and the boiling river of spiritual energy also gradually calmed down. Until everything calmed down, the awls of the chain flow slowly retreated from Fire Cloud, evil god's body, and they resumed their flow. They slowly flowed around Xiang Lu, making a crisp sound. Was this really set up by Kelowna Shinryu? Fire Cloud, evil god, didn't say anything even though doubts arose in his heart. After regaining his composure, he said in a very straightforward manner, You're right. These chains are indeed very strange. If I use too much force, it won't be good for this long river of spiritual aura. Let's drop the matter. You can go. Xiang Lu said slowly, This is not the place for you to come. Don't disturb my meditation. Fire Cloud, evil god, pondered for a while. It seems that being trapped here has changed you a lot. Xiang Lu shook his head. The spiritual energy here is very pure. Letting this spiritual energy cleanse my soul every day can indeed bring me peace. During this time, the more I think about the past, the more I can feel peace in my heart. Fire Cloud, evil god, said dubiously. Anyway, it's a good thing, although I'm not very clear about the cause and effect. But since you can find peace in your heart, it proves that the method of trapping you here is effective. Xiang Lu smiled, very indifferently. Then, I won't disturb you. Fire Cloud, evil god, directly cupped his hands. Xiang Lu suddenly asked, Before you go, can you tell me what happened outside? Since you're here to give up the past and reflect on your mistakes, why do you still care about the things outside? Fire Cloud, evil god, said indifferently. There are still some things that I can't let go of. Xiang Lu gave a wry smile. outside, there's an organization called Michael Club. I was caught by the members of this organization. After they did some inhuman research on me, they have obtained the secret of rebirth of our Xiang Lu family and created a terrible creature. Believe me, this organization is not as simple as people who already know about it imagine. Any information you have about this organization is just the tip of the iceberg. Club? Fire Cloud, Evil God frowned. About this club we have also noticed, but the club has never been active in Kelowna. At least, they don't dare to move around in Kelowna with their extraordinary power. I believe you. Xiang Lu smiled. I also believe in the deterrent power of Shinryu in Kelowna. But it's better to be more careful. Enemies hiding in the dark, especially those who are silent, once they move, it will be a fatal blow. Prometheus, maybe it won't be long before you know how terrible this creature is. Prometheus? It's a kind of creature that is created with the rebirth power of Xiang Lu, mixed with the genes of many different creatures, even monsters and demon beasts. It has unlimited reproduction and is not afraid of death. After all, this kind of creature is created with the genes of Xiang Lu family. If they do evil, I will also be responsible for it. About this, I will investigate it clearly. Fire Cloud, Evil God nodded. Thank you for your reminder. Can you tell me more about the club? Xiang Lu waved his hand, and the surrounding aura condensed into a jade-like object in his hand, shooting it directly into Fire Cloud, Evil God's hand. Everything I know about the club is recorded in it. You can take it. Xiang Lu said indifferently. I'm going to continue my meditation. Fire Cloud, Evil God squeezed the jade slip in his hand and nodded. In that case, I'll take my leave. With that, Fire Cloud, Evil God cupped his hand again. If I have time, I'll come and have a drink with you. Xiang Lu calmly watched Fire Cloud, Evil God leave, as if he didn't want to leave. He fell into the eternal tranquility of the Aura River again, and then started to recite the Heart Sutra. He had been reciting all the Heart Sutras of Buddhism, and even the Heart Sutra of Taoism. The pure aura kept cleansing his state of mind. He became calmer, and the merciful look on his face became more and more intense. However, the chains in the surroundings were still flowing, emitting a rhythmic, crisp sound. Stop it! Stop! Stop! Xiang Lu suddenly opened his eyes. There was no merciful look on his face, but clearly, he was like a devil from hell. He charged around like a madman. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! How long do you want to keep me here? I've already repented. I've been reciting it every day, every hour, every moment. I'm incomparably peaceful. I even worried about Kelowna's safety, so I gave Fire Cloud a hint. I've been like this. Why don't you stop? What do you want to do to let me go? Stop it. At this time, Xiang Lu was like a beast, staring at the chains that were not affected at all and continued to flow. Suddenly, Xiang Lu raised his hands, fiercely piercing his own ears with his fingers. It seemed that he couldn't hear anything for a moment. The whole world was quiet. Quiet. Xiang Lu sat still. Even though his ears were bleeding, there was a satisfied smile on his face. Rustle, rustle, rustle. His face suddenly changed. The sound of the chains flowing and hitting sounded again. The powerful rebirth power of Xiang Lu's family in the environment of the Aura River instantly healed his pierced ears. He had to crazily pierce his ears again, hoping that he could not hear the sound of the chains. But, repair, pierce, repair, pierce, he crazily repeated. Please, don't move anymore. Stop, stop it. Xiao Bao was slacking the office. In order to slack, he even developed a new way of slacking. That was, he hung the power cable of the computer between two tables, the kind that could be kicked open when the door was opened. It worked every time. Even if he was busy with work, he would slack even if he died. Your man doesn't want you anymore. It's so King fierce, rushing to such a high ranking. After finishing a game, Xiao Bao leaned on the back of the chair, as if he had been squeezed dry. It's almost catching up with Brother Xiao and his wife. But the screen turned black instantly. Xiao Bao was stunned. Then, with his acting skills, he grabbed his hair and stood up like a madman. I've been doing reports all day. Officer Lin at the door said angrily. Do you still need to use this trick? Xiao Bao shrugged, sitting down angrily and restarting the computer. I'm very busy. I don't have time to help you. Don't be like that. Lin Feng walked over with a smile, sitting directly on the table. Have you found anything new from the certificate collection at noon? Not yet. Xiao Bao shook his head. Not yet. Lin Feng said unbelievably. It's a priority. It's my priority. It's all F***king priority. Xiao Bao said angrily. Anyway, I can't finish it alone. I've been living in the office every day, but I can't finish it. I quit. I'm already like this, but you still won't let me go. Fire me if you have the ability. You must be kidding. If Officer Lin had the power, he would have fired this guy who slacked off every day. Do me a favor? It's not that I don't want to help you. Xiao Bao shook his head. I've already written a resignation letter. This place is really not suitable for people to stay. You see, I'm obviously getting such a good salary, but I don't even have a girlfriend except for slacking off at work. I don't have one either. Anyway, I quit. If you want the information, just follow the order. Wait for 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 days. Are you going to help me or not? Officer Lin suddenly pulled a long face. No, just wait. Officer Lin directly used the deadly choke taught by Officer Ma, directly strangling Xiao Bao's neck with his elbow, and press him on the table. What about now? Xiao Bao didn't want to be outdone. He directly turned back, pulling the hair under Officer Lin's armpit and poking his nose. So on and so forth. The door of the office was suddenly pushed open, and then a figure came in. White long coat, neat short hair, and a delicate face. Did I come in at a bad time? Gay and gay. Xiao Bao and Lin Feng, who were wrestling, suddenly stunned. Xiao Bao suddenly pushed Lin Feng away and instantly ran over with snot and tears, with an aggrieved look. Dr. Nan, you're finally back. Nan Xiaonan in front of the door just smiled, and after avoiding Xiao Bao's hug, she said casually, Yes, I'm back from vacation. Chapter 1935. The reason why he chose to return to work at this time was because he had no other choice. Ever since this witch of the academic school was abandoned by Boss Luo in Mr. Wally's castle, she had returned to a standalone state. Tang Tianlin had been kidnapped by Gongsun Ernyang, and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. Nan Xiaonan naturally had no intention of rescuing him. But the problem was that she couldn't always stay abroad by herself. She heard that the extraordinary summit meeting was going to be held in the city where she worked as a forensic doctor. How could she still sit still? With such big news, the future boss and future lady boss wouldn't miss it, right? Besides, this city was where Mr. Luo had been living in seclusion. Nan Xiaonan even thought that there was a 99% possibility that Mr. Luo was the one who made the ban in this city. She hadn't found the door with the key in hand, so she had to come back and get as close to the summit meeting as possible. Ordinary people couldn't do it, and it was inconvenient to do anything in the Forbidden City. At this time, an official identity was very useful. Of course, the identity of a forensic doctor was useless for the summit meeting, but it was better than being a passerby, right? The attack on the guest house? Yes, I heard that it was one of the guest houses that hosted foreign missions. Officer Lin is looking for me because he wants to see if there are any clues. Xiao Bao said in detail. Nan Xiaonan said angrily, We are forensic doctors, not forensic doctors. There are not enough people in the bureau, and I have to work in 2 departments. Xiao Bao shrugged. Lady Nan, since you are back, I may have to work in the forensic department. Oh, then you go. Nan Xiaonan nodded. Xiao Bao opened his eyes wide. He couldn't go. How could he slack off at work if he went there? Wasn't the reason why he accepted this arrangement because there weren't many people in the office? Lady Nan, without me, who will make you coffee? Who will buy you food? Who will sweep the floor for you? Who? Then go to East Street and buy me a cup of milk tea. Then go to the online celebrity shop in South District and buy me a chocolate cake. Oh, and I just came back. I haven't cleaned the house yet. Is this the key? Are you human? I'd better do the ballistic test for Officer Lin. Xiao Bao floated out with a sad face. Nan Xiaonan looked at the empty office. Awesome. She tapped her fingers on the table and suddenly picked up the phone. How could she find Mr. Luo? The best way was to beat around the bush or pretend that it was an accidental encounter. It was impossible for them to meet by chance. How could that indescribable existence not know what they were thinking? They could only beat around the bush. It was Andy Run. Huh? Lady Nan, it's really you. Where did you go? Why did you suddenly say you were on vacation? Because Nan Xiaonan had once stayed in their house for a few days, and because she was also a professional woman, Auntie Rin inexplicably had a good impression of Nan Xiaonan. Besides, as a reporter, Auntie Rin was also looking forward to digging out a lot of first-hand, exclusive information from Nan Xiaonan, who was a forensic doctor. Yes, I just came back. Nan Xiaonan thought for a while and said, Sister Rin, how are you? So many things have happened recently. I'm fine, Auntie Rin said quickly, but I'm not free now. I'm at the summit meeting. There are leaders coming to check. I'll hang up now. Talk to you later? Okay. After the phone was hung up, Nan Xiaonan fell into contemplation. She played with the key given by Mr. Luo and muttered, If I remember correctly, Rin Xiling is just a tabloid reporter. How did this third-rate tabloid reporter get into such an important occasion? Sure enough, it was arranged by the will of the universe. Pa! The key in her hand fell to the ground. Nan Xiaonan bent down to pick up the key on the ground subconsciously. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration. Huh? Key? Could it be it's not that simple? Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell rang one after another. After a while, the back door of the pet hospital opened slowly and reluctantly, just like Long Shuo's expression when she opened the door. Looking at Long Shuo, who looked like she saw her enemy and couldn't wait to tear her apart, Fire Cloud, Evil God's heart skipped a beat subconsciously. Lord Long, did I come at the wrong time? Yes, it's not the right time. Goodbye. Seeing Kelowna's Shinryu closing the door without saying anything, Fire Cloud Evil God could only helplessly reach out to block it. However, Long Shuo looked like she was determined to close the door. She simply ignored the hand and pushed the door down fiercely. As an ultimate warrior, how could she be injured just because she was caught by the door? Ouch, ouch, ouch. Lord Long, have mercy. Spit it out. Indeed, can you let me in first? Fire Cloud, Evil God, smiled bitterly. Long Shuo reluctantly opened the door and looked Fire Cloud, Evil God up and down. Why are you here? Didn't that crazy guy come to you? What kind of crazy guy is that? I went out early in the morning and just came back from outside the city. Oh, it's okay. Long Shuo shrugged, then leaned against the door frame and crossed her arms. Say it. You don't come here without a reason. Fire Cloud, Evil God's face suddenly became serious. Actually, I went along to mountain and saw a guy. Xiang Lu. Kelowna's Shinryu couldn't help but frown slightly. She didn't say anything, but turned and went back into the house, leaving the door open. Tap water. The way of hospitality. After that, Kelowna's Shinryu crossed her arms and sat on the sofa. Say it. What do you want to ask? Fire Cloud, Evil God looked at the glass full of water and didn't intend to do anything. He just said slowly, I wanted to investigate the restrictive spell in the city, so I thought. He was interrupted. You think it's caused by the changes in the underground spirit vein, right? Long Shuo retorted. You're not too stupid to think of that. But you're wrong. This matter is more or less related to the spirit vein, but the restrictive spell isn't caused by the changes in the spirit vein. It's something else. So, Lord Long does know the real reason for the restrictive spell. Fire Cloud, Evil God frowned. Long Shuo said, I don't have a definite answer, and I can't tell you. It's not good for you, but bad for you. For this matter, I can only say that the restrictive spell is to protect the peace and daily life of this land. Besides that, there's no conspiracy as you think. Fire Cloud, Evil God was silent for a while, and then smiled slightly. Since Shinryu said so, I'm relieved. Let's not talk about the restrictive spell first. But there's one thing I heard from Xiang Lu. It's about a mysterious club, Michael Club. Long Shuo couldn't help frowning. Xiang Lu told you. He told you this? Not only told me. Fire Cloud, Evil God took out a piece of jade slip. Here, it records everything Xiang Lu knows about this club. Of course, we can't read it in the city for the time being, but on the way back, I've read it once and memorized it. With that, Fire Cloud, evil god, directly handed the jade slip to Long Shirua. Kelowna Shinryu rubbed the jade slip in her hand and said with a strange expression, "He really told you everything? Why?" Fire Cloud, evil god, said indifferently, "I saw his kind face. I think he's been imprisoned in the Reiki River and has been cleansed by the pure Reiki every day, so he's turned over a new leaf. He gave it to me as if to atone for what he did in the past. Lord Long, don't you know? You haven't seen him for a long time, right?" "Humph, who said that?" Long Shirua snorted. "No, not even once. Almost forgot that this guy was imprisoned." Fire Cloud, evil god, shook his head, and then said in a low voice, "Lord Long, how much do you know about this club? Tell me about you first." Long Shirua said indifferently. Fire Cloud, evil god, didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "In fact, a long time ago, the administration had observed the existence of such a mysterious organization abroad. At the very beginning, this organization was only active with the power of the secular world. Later, it began to develop a new drug called Heaven's Tears and crazily amassed wealth, and even entered our country. But I don't know why a year ago, this club suddenly stopped a series of actions, as if it had disappeared from the world." He observed Long Shirua's expression, but found nothing. So he continued, "Until I got this information from Xiang Lu, I was really shocked by the forbearance and horror of this club. It's impossible to know how long the club has existed. There are a total of 26 leaders named by tarot cards in the club, who are the top managers, and there are 12 powerful immortal generals under them. According to Xiang Lu's memory, when he was in the club at that time, he was just a senior cadre. In addition, since the beginning of the modern century, this club has been constantly recruiting top researchers and has been secretly developing various new technologies. According to Xiang Lu's observation, the club's technological level is at least 100 years ahead of the current human. This club seems to have different degrees of penetration in the world outside Kelowna, but so far, no one knows what this club is planning. According to their internal statement, it seems that they want to create a new world. This club," Long Shirua thought for a while and said, "Not long ago, they attacked the Magician Association and almost destroyed it. And the one who launched this attack was the first tower owner of the Magician Association, who is the teacher of the current tower owner of Radiance Tower. He has also won the 26 seats." Fire Cloud, evil god's eyes narrowed. "Is this true?" "Whether it's true or not, you can check it yourself." Long Shaw said indifferently, "But because of this incident, the Magician Association has started to fight back against this club. If it wasn't for the summit in Kelowna, the Magician Association might have already taken action." "Lord Long, do you know more about this club?" "I don't necessarily know more than you, than what is recorded in this jade slip." Long Shirua shook her head, "But no matter what, as long as this club doesn't make trouble in Kelowna, they can do whatever they want outside. Someone will deal with them." Long Shirua wondered if Su Zijuan had gone to the door. It had been so long, but there was no news. Long Shirua wondered. Fire Cloud, evil god, didn't comment. As the Shinryu of Kelowna, Long Shirua had such an attitude, because things outside of Kelowna were indeed beyond the scope of Long Shirua's original responsibilities. Fire Cloud, evil god smiled. "Now that I think about it, it's really a blessing for the people of Kelowna to have the Lord Long in charge of Kelowna." "Don't flatter me." Long Shirua rolled her eyes and said, "I'm still waiting for you to give me an explanation. You said it yourself. If you don't give me an explanation for injuring that old fox, you'll come to my door and let me beat you up." I suddenly remembered something. Fire Cloud, evil god's old face was about to crumble, and he wanted to leave. "Wait." Long Shirua suddenly thought of something and instantly ran upstairs, then came back with a crumpled A4 paper and threw it to Fire Cloud, evil god. "Take this back and read it first. I was going to mention it on the last day of the meeting, but since you're here today, I might as well let you prepare first." Not only was the paper crumpled, but it was also scribbled on like a primary school student's homework. Fire Cloud, evil god glanced at the contents. "Proposal on the limited establishment of a new type of special demon autonomous region. Lord Long, the human race is rising and the demon race's destiny is declining. But declining doesn't mean that it completely disappeared, Longsho said indifferently. I'm the Shinryu of Kelowna, not the human race's Shinryu. This city was originally my territory. You already have an impregnable capital. That's more or less enough. Don't be too greedy. Firecloud, Evil God's heart really skipped a beat. Even now, in this city where magic was forbidden, Firecloud, Evil God, left the pet hospital with a trace of melancholy. He didn't dare to stay any longer because no one wanted to really annoy this Shinryu of Kelowna. The administration was just testing Long Shirua's bottom line. It seemed that the bottom line was about to be seen. She seemed to be doing nothing, but she knew it better than anyone. She knew it clearly in her heart. Before leaving, Longshaw suddenly shouted, "By the way, when you saw Xiang Lu, were those chains still there?" Firecloud, Evil God, was stunned. "Yes, I couldn't break it. Is there any problem?" "Nothing," Longshaw said indifferently. "It just shows that Xiang Lu is still a trash. If he didn't really change himself, those chains would never disappear." The Shinryu of Kelowna smiled. "Even if it's me, even if I use Jojo Xinyuan, I can't break it." Shinryu didn't lie, nor did he scare. Firecloud, Evil God, could be sure of this. The city's forbidden law, was there someone else? Firecloud, Evil God, suddenly felt a chill all over his body. "Master, in our world, is there someone more powerful than the Shinryu of Kelowna?" He suddenly remembered Yin Xiaoxi's question. Chapter 1936. An ordinary person's day would pass quickly. Perhaps as long as they were engrossed in the short videos on their mobile phones, a few hours would pass unknowingly. However, for some people, even 10 minutes was quite precious. Yin Xiaoxi and Bu Bugao's meeting was only 10 minutes. For a rookie agent like Bu Bugao, who had only debuted for half a year, this was already a great honor. In order to meet Section Chief Yin, Bu Bugao had already made preparations. He even brought the box that Wang Hu brought back. That is to say, the one who tracked down the criminal and brought the box back was a logistic support called Wang Hu. Yin Xiaoxi looked at Bu Bugao. This rookie's resume was already displayed on the computer screen. His back was facing Bu Bugao's screen. There was nothing special about him. His grades were just above the passing line. He was the kind of person who could graduate from school, but did not have much talent. As for Wang Hu's information, it was also displayed on the screen. It was a new file. 100-year-old transformed tiger demon. There was nothing special about him. Being able to track down the criminal and seize the weapon used for the attack was probably due to luck. Yin Xiaoxi could not get any useful information from Bu Bugao's description. She could not even determine whether the killing of the black shaman from the non-Middle Earth continent and the attack on the other guest house were done by the same group of people. "Thank you for your hard work." Yin Xiaoxi planned to send Bu Bugao away in less than 10 minutes. No, 3 minutes. "It's not hard. I'm just working for the administration." Bu Bugao was sitting upright at this time, but he touched his head embarrassedly. Actually, the main attacker this time is Wang Hu. Wang Hu, this big guy, has the ability, but it seems to be a waste to let him be a logistic support. "Section Chief Yin, I heard that our bureau has a special promotion channel, especially suitable for some capable talents. I wonder if we can give Wang Hu a chance?" Yin Xiaoxi frowned and did not speak. She just looked at Bu Bugao like this. Bu Bugao opened his mouth and shrunk his neck in awe. He laughed dryly and said, "I'm just curious, just asking." Yin Xiaoxi looked down at the document and said calmly, "If this Wang Hu is really capable, we will not waste his talent. However, since Wang Hu is a demon, the examination would naturally be stricter. But as long as you're willing to contribute to the country, we'll definitely welcome you. If there's nothing else, you can go back to your post. Thank you for coming today, Agent Bu." Bu Bugao could only nod his head stiffly and walk out of the office in a daze. Before he went out, Bu Bugao suddenly remembered something and said, "Oh right, Section Chief, there's one more thing. When Wang Hu brought back this box, there was also a police officer who saw it on the spot. According to him, this weapon seemed to be made temporarily by someone. He said that the murderer might have good explosive skills." Yin Xiaoxi looked up at Bu Bugao expressionlessly. I'm fine. Sorry to disturb you, Chief. Bu Bugao quickly opened the door and walked out, then gently closed the door. Explosive skills? Yin Xiaoxi asked with a frown. After a moment of silence, he made a call. The call went straight to several subordinates who were conducting the final security checks at the summit meeting. Chief, what's the matter? How's the investigation going? It's still in progress. Don't worry, we'll definitely check every place clearly. Extend the time of inspection, especially the inspection of explosives. Also, pass down the order to set up another checkpoint at each entrance of the venue. All items entering the venue must be checked for explosives, even if it's a bottle of water, a pack of cigarettes, a stick of lipstick, and even the smallest things can't be missed. Got it. I'll do it right away. Yin Xiaoxi put down the phone. After a while, a subordinate walked in with a document in his hand. This document was sent by the Magician Association. Chief, there's news. The subordinate quickly said, This is the information sent by Miss You. It's about the identities of the guys in the photos. Pretty efficient. Yin Xiaoxi chuckled and said, The Magician Association has really sent an outstanding diplomat this time. He took the document from the subordinate's hand and flipped it open. Apart from the information of Black Dragon Ajuin, the information of the other people was also quite detailed. However, Chief Yan's expression gradually turned ugly, especially when he saw the last piece of information. Spirit, Witch Jilian, Black Dragon Ajuin Leia, the granddaughter of the late Sword Saint Roland Farrell, one of the 12 knights of the Knight Organization, the most ferocious knight. He had been imprisoned for 100 years and was currently in a state of escape. If it's really this person, I'm afraid we've caught an incredible guy. Yin Xiaoxi sighed slowly. Unlucky. Chief, who exactly is this Farrell? The subordinate was puzzled. I haven't had the time to find out. A ferocious person. Yin Xiaoxi thought for a while and said, A guy who almost destroyed the entire Knight Organization by himself. Because of this guy, Britain's Knight Organization was almost removed from the top supernatural forces in the West. It only recovered a little in the past 20 to 30 years. You see, the non-human world in Eurasia basically doesn't play with Britain much. This is because of the decline of the Knight Organization. This Farrell was once known as the world's strongest knight. The strongest knight? The subordinate was stunned. He asked curiously, What does he compare to the Holy Knights of the Vatican? Yin Xiaoxi said, Let's put it this way. According to the records of the Secret News Division, during Farrell's era, all the experts who claimed to be knights were suppressed by him to the point of being unable to raise their heads. Wherever Farrell appeared, the Holy Knights of the Church would all retreat. He's that strong. Of course, that's just a side account. Yin Xiaoxi said calmly. As for whether Farrell is as strong as the records say, we haven't seen it for ourselves. However, if the guy we caught is really this Farrell, help me contact the ambassador group of the Knight Organization, Yin Xiaoxi said quickly. I hope they can help us confirm Farrell's identity as soon as possible. I'll do it right away. The subordinate hurriedly left. Yin Xiaoxi picked up the document and read it carefully again. She muttered, Now it's almost confirmed that one of the two remaining strong auras in the world belongs to this guy, who seems to be Farrell. However, the other aura, could it be one of the three? A black dragon and a granddaughter of a sword saint. In terms of identity, the possibility of it being Farrell was higher. As for the special profession of the soul, which it was rarely seen. Just as Yin Xiaoxi was deep in thought, the subordinate quickly came back and told her that the Knight Organization had agreed to help and would send someone over soon. Like a whirlpool, the consciousness was spiraling in the whirlpool. Finally, it was pulled into the dark depths of the sea. It was turbid and suffocating. In a small room filled with various photos and newspaper clippings, Mr. Kim slowly opened his eyes. He was awake. He shook his head hard, then tidied up his appearance. He walked out of the small house and went to the underground workshop outside. The workbench had stopped working. Only one of the 4 people was left sitting in front of the computer, typing on the keyboard. How long have I slept, Bernard? Mr. Kim asked directly. Sitting in front of the computer was a man with messy hair, a beard, and a Western face. His age was unknown. He was eating a donut. The man called Bernard turned his head and said, "Less than 2 hours." "Where are they?" "They went out." Bernard said, "Lawrence said he was going to buy some materials because you broke his big guy." As for Maeve and Ligua, they went to the venue to observe the terrain. "Right, BB is still watching the shop upstairs. Do you want a donut?" "I'm not hungry." Mr. Kim shook his head. "I'll go out for a walk too." Bernard nodded and said, "Go ahead. I'll send you the route map of the patrolling policeman nearby. You can check it yourself." Mr. Kim didn't say anything. After climbing out of the underground workshop, he quickly returned to the second-hand electrical appliance shop. The young woman, BB, who was watching the shop, was hanging upside down on the shelf, doing abdominal exercises. She was sweating profusely. "Mr. Kim." BB nimbly turned over and got down. "I'll go out for a walk and buy some food on the way back. What do you want to eat?" "Ice cream pudding." The girl, BB, smiled and said, "I feel like I can eat 3. As she said this, the girl took out a coat and a hat. She put them on Mr. Kim. They covered the shocking scar on his forehead. Then she said softly, "Be careful." After putting on the hat, he walked out of the street from the front door. The afternoon sun was still a bit bright. Mr. Kim used his palm to block it, but his eyes were almost unable to open. The temperature on the ground was completely different from the temperature in the basement. Some places became hot. There were also the sounds of cicadas. The steam on the road even distorted the air. "Patter." Mr. Kim opened a small bottle and popped a small pill into his mouth, as if he was chewing gum. He swallowed it. He frowned and walked alone along the street toward the city center. Many shops had been closed for the past few days. Mr. Kim suddenly stopped. He saw that on the shutter of a closed shop, some cursing words had been sprayed with spray paint at an unknown time. "Go to hell, monster." Similar graffiti could be seen quite a lot in the streets and alleys. There were even some people who stood in public areas and held loudspeakers to give speeches. Of course, they would soon be chased away by the patrolling police. The more serious ones would be taken away directly. That was why the police in this city were so busy. In just a few months after entering the extraordinary society, they went from being at a loss to resisting. The pain that every new generation had to go through was happening, and it was evolving towards severe pain. Mr. Kim expressionlessly walked past a group of people who were giving speeches. He casually turned into a small alley. In the dark alley, there were a few young people. They painted their faces in a strange and terrifying way and made all kinds of strange postures. They were taking pictures of themselves. It seemed like they were cosplaying, but it was also because of some kind of worship. Young people who worshipped extraordinary power. They were even willing to give up their loyalty and lives to obtain extraordinary power. Voices of opposition could be seen everywhere. However, there were also many people who yearned for it and were even willing to submit to it. The weather was getting hotter and hotter. Mr. Kim felt a burning pain on his forehead, as if he was being burned by fire. "Uncle, are you interested in us as well?" A young man with dyed green hair, a nose ring, and a self-made steel claw gauntlet on his left hand walked up to Mr. Kim. "Join us. Don't listen to those people outside. This is the extraordinary society. Let me tell you, our boss is a real monster." "A real monster." "Monster," Mr. Kim said indifferently. "Where is it?" The green-haired young man narrowed his eyes and pointed behind him. On the iron stairs outside the house, there was a blond young man who was hugging a coquettish girl. The blond young man was bare-chested. His muscles were well-defined, and his face was filled with hostility. His eyes were dark green in color. "He is also a monster," Mr. Kim said indifferently. Mr. Jean said indifferently, "I'm afraid that he's neither a human nor a demon. A real demon is not like you, playing house." "Boss, this uncle is looking for trouble." The green-haired young man snorted coldly. He sneered and licked the steel claw gauntlet on his hand. "I like to teach you self-righteous middle-aged people a lesson." The sharp steel claws viciously swiped at Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim didn't dodge. He stretched out his arm and grabbed the green-haired young man's arm. Then he twisted it forcefully with a cracking sound. The green-haired young man's arm was twisted. "My arm! My arm!" The green-haired young man screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat. Mr. Kim grabbed the green-haired young man's body and slammed him against the wall. The green-haired young man's body hit the wall, and he felt pain again. But this wasn't the end. Mr. Kim grabbed the young man's hair and slammed his head against the wall again. The young man fell to the ground and lost consciousness. The small groups hiding in this alley looked at this scene in horror. The blonde boss, sitting on the stairs, opened his mouth. Mr. Kim waved his hand, and a black short stick slid out of his sleeve. The short stick bounced off instantly, and there was even the sound of electric current flashing at the end. What do you want to do? Don't get me wrong. Mr. Kim walked towards him step by step. I'm going to beat you up now, not because I want to teach you a lesson for your relatives or friends. I just want to beat you up now, that's all. Go together, quickly and decisively. Mr. Kim took back the electric shock stick and walked out of the alley expressionlessly. Behind him, the small groups of monsters were all lying on the ground. The blonde boss's eyes were swollen. One of his eyes turned back to an ordinary black eyeball, and a contact lens fell on the ground. Humans don't need this kind of uncontrollable power. Mr. Kim blocked the scorching sun with his palm again. It was still difficult for him to open his eyes. He felt more pain on his forehead. It was burning pain. In front of the anti-theft door, Nan Xiaonan was holding the key. Squinting her eyes, she licked her lips and bent down, using the key in her hand to trace the keyhole in front of her. No, why can't I insert it? Why is the keyhole so narrow? It's not that the narrower the better. The right size is the most comfortable one. Why can't I insert it? Am I wrong? It's not this door at all? This was the anti-theft door of Boss Luo's house. She even wanted to force herself on him, regardless of the consequences, and just stick it in first. What was the right way to do it without using force? Lady Nan, what are you doing? Don't you see? I'm opening. The academic witch in her child world raised her head subconsciously. Who else could it be but the future boss's wife? Boss's wife? Oh, Lady Nan, look, you're talking nonsense again. The servant girl in front of the door smiled slightly. Come in, this key can't open this door. Besides, the master won't give you the key to open this door easily. Nan Xiaonan could only smile embarrassedly, and somewhat regretfully took back the key. Obviously, she had almost inserted it, although she used force. Hashtag PS1. Yes, it's him again. He temporarily used the evil power of capital to whip me. PS2. Under the parasol tree. PS2. Chapter 1937. It was not the first time Nan Xiaonan came to this place. She even stayed here for a few nights. But she didn't dare to be rash and sat straight on the sofa obediently. The TV was off. When she entered the door, she seemed to see Mr. Luo holding the remote control to turn off the TV. Nan Xiaonan didn't think much about it, thinking it was just a courtesy. Guest? She was a guest? Mr. Luo, how long have you been back? She needed to take the initiative to find a topic. This was the best topic. Boss Luo smiled and said, Lady Nan, why did you think of coming here to find me? She didn't expect to find him here so easily. She just wanted to try the key in her hand. She didn't expect to find him by accident, but she couldn't say it now. He had to be deep, intelligent, mysterious, and unfathomable. He had to be valuable. I just wanted to try it. Nan Xiaonan smiled and said, It's reasonable that I didn't find him. It's my luck that I found him. It seems that I'm lucky. Please have some tea. Boss Luo waved his hand and said. Nan Xiaonan was still racking her brains to find a topic. Boss Luo said again, About the key, Lady Nan, do you have a clue? Asking this directly. So sudden? Not yet, Nan Xiaonan said helplessly. Then she said with a correct attitude, But I won't give up. Besides, it's only been a few days. Boss Luo thought for a while and said, I think it's too harsh if I don't give any hint to Lady Nan. You mean? Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth subconsciously. It's here. Boss Luo looked at Nan Xiaonan's eyes and said indifferently, It's in this city, on someone's body. Someone's body. Nan Xiaonan's eyes went blank as if she was frightened. She subconsciously said, Where? Oh, that's not what I meant. I can't say whether it's right or not. The hint ends here. I'll think about it myself, right? However, The scope had been narrowed down from the entire world to this one city, and even narrowed down to a single person. However, for Nan Xiaonan, it was still an extremely difficult task. She couldn't possibly insert them one by one and try to pass through them, right? While Nan Xiaonan was thinking hard, the servant girl suddenly said, "I also have a small hint for Lady Nan." She blinked her eyes and hurriedly looked over. Her eyes were clearly brimming with the words, "Thank you, Lady Boss. Maybe it's a man." Miss Maid blinked her eyes and said, "Oh." It was really a prompt that reduced the range by half again. What's the use of leaps and bounds of improvement? Or maybe the witch of the subworld's academic school even felt like crying and laughing. She smiled bitterly. "Thank you, Missy. You're welcome." Miss Maid nodded elegantly. Then, "Lady Nan, work hard." Looking at Miss Maid's smiling face, Nan Xiaonan suddenly froze and immediately reacted. I'll leave first." "Let me send you off, Lady Nan." Miss Maid nodded again. So direct. She sent her directly to the door. It took her less than 10 minutes to walk in and sit down. Lady Nan didn't know whether she would gain anything this time. But the future boss and his wife. It was highly likely that the future boss didn't want her to stay for a long time. "Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Lady Nan's result as soon as possible." Miss Maid chuckled and sent her off. Then the anti-theft door was closed, and the door inside the anti-theft door was also closed. Nan Xiaonan stood in front of the door in a daze. But at this time, she suddenly found that there was something in her palm. She remembered that she didn't take anything out of the house. Why did something suddenly appear in her palm? Is this the real prompt? Nan Xiaonan held up her palm and carefully looked at the thing in her palm. She was almost sure that this was what the future boss secretly gave her. But what was this? A pill. "You seem to like this Lady Nan very much." Boss Luo suddenly laughed. A little. Miss Maid seemed to be in a good mood. Boss Luo stretched out his hand and wiped the tea table. A small pill suddenly appeared on the tea table. Boss Luo picked up the pill with his fingers. He sized it up. "Is this also something that came from your hands?" he asked curiously. Miss Maid shook her head. "It shouldn't be. But it doesn't seem to be something that should exist in this world. There are many things that shouldn't exist here." Boss Luo said indifferently. "Maybe it was left for me. Maybe for someone else." "Master, I should go and prepare dinner." Miss Maid suddenly stood up and said, "Miss Rin will come. She should be very tired. I'm going to take a walk outside." Boss Luo nodded and said. She smiled in response. British Night Agency. This time, Gareth, one of the 12 knights, came directly, and he was also the current chief of the Night Agency. "Section Chief Yin, where did your agency find him?" On the screen in the monitoring room, Mr. Gareth stared at the man in white who was being guarded in an interrogation room. When Gareth and Yin Xiaoxi were observing together, the man in white in the interrogation room suddenly raised his head and looked at the monitoring camera in the room, as if to look at each other. "He found out that we were looking at him?" Mr. Gareth said in disbelief. A frown creased Yin Xiaoxi's forehead, and she said, "All supernatural powers are forbidden. Perhaps it's just his instincts, but if that's the case, he's much more dangerous than we thought." "Of course he's dangerous. He may be the most dangerous man in the world." Mr. Gareth smiled bitterly. "Farrell, sure enough, it's really him." Yin Xiaoxi's expression became more serious again. Mr. Gareth muttered, "Section Chief Yin, although this is not the right time to mention it. Farrell is a felon in Britain after all, and a felon who is on the run. I hope Section Chief Yin can let me extradite him." Yin Xiaoxi said indifferently, "I'm sorry, Mr. Gareth. There are no relevant extradition regulations in our country at the moment, and this person is currently involved in a very nasty murder case. The ones who died were several senior agents of our bureau. We just want to confirm Farrell's identity for everyone in the Night Agency." "How can that be?" Mr. Garrett's expression changed slightly, and he felt the seriousness of the matter. "Section Chief Yin, this may not be the case now. He was a felon of the Night Agency, and one of the 12 knights of the former Night Agency. Now that he was involved in the murder case of an agent of the Shenzhou administration. Once the Shenzhou administration believed that this murder case was instigated by the Night Agency, Britain had just experienced a shock from the Night Agency, and its vitality was greatly damaged by the rebellion of the former leader, Sir Hopkins. If they became enemies with the Kelowna Agency at this time, the situation would be even worse. Originally, there was almost no night agency in the inhuman territory of the entire Eurasian continent. Isolated and without help, everything is still under speculation, Yin Xiaoxi said indifferently. Before things are clear, we won't incriminate him. But if Farrell doesn't talk, we can't continue the investigation. Since Mr. Gareth is here, I wonder if you have a way to make him talk? Mr. Gareth could only bite the bullet and said, "Can I see him?" "Of course." Yin Xiaoxi agreed immediately. The arrangement for the meeting was completed very quickly, and in just a few minutes, Mr. Gareth had already walked into the interrogation room where Farrell was detained. Gareth looked around, and he knew that this room not only had a lot of surveillance cameras, but also a recording device. The conversation here would probably be recorded without missing a word. "Mr. Farrell, I'm Gareth, one of the current 12 Knights. Do you remember me?" Mr. Gareth took a deep breath and sat down slowly. "We've met during the riot in Fog City. Did you properly complete the 100,000 swings of the sword every day?" The man in white, Farrell, whose identity had been confirmed, asked directly at this time. "Who could complete that kind of thing properly?" "I'm ashamed." Mr. Garrett's expression was ugly. "After the incident with Sir Hopkins, the person in charge of the night agency fell on my head. Just dealing with official business every day has already made me very busy. I really can't find the time." Farrell closed his eyes directly. Mr. Gareth pondered and said, "Mr. Farrell, you're in a very bad situation now. You've been involved in the murder of a Kelowna Agency agent. As far as I know, these agents came to the place where you landed in order to investigate the matter of you destroying the drone. Now that they're dead, I'm afraid the Kelowna Agency won't let this go easily. Mr. Farrell, can you provide any information that can prove your innocence?" Farrell still didn't speak. Mr. Gareth was not only anxious, but also agitated. He was so agitated that he couldn't control himself. He lowered his voice and said, "Mr. Farrell, please don't give the night agency any more trouble. The night agency is now in a precarious situation. Because of you, the once glorious night agency has already." Farrell opened his eyes abruptly. Gareth was glanced at and instantly felt cold all over. Farrell said indifferently, "Your so-called glory was created by my own hands, so it's not a problem for me to destroy it personally. If you're unwilling, then go ahead and hate yourself." "Hate yourself? Why hasn't the night agency cultivated a knight who can surpass me after 100 years? Gareth took a deep breath and suppressed his emotions. He said slowly, "Now, the Kelowna Agency will most likely believe that you're the murderer. If you don't intend to prove yourself, even if we want to, we can't help you. Maybe you don't care about our help at all, but after all, you're one of the 12 Knights. The 12 Knights are a whole. We won't let their honor be tarnished. Even if we're so unbearable in your eyes, we've already inherited the honor of the 12 Knights. We'll never rage or murder, never betray, never be cruel, and we'll forgive those who ask for forgiveness." Farrell said expressionlessly, "How long has it been since you wielded a sword?" Mr. Gareth rose to his feet and turned away. "Section Chief Yin, I'm sorry. You've seen it. I'm afraid it's not easy to make Farrell talk." Mr. Gareth said helplessly, "But before the matter is clear, I hope Farrell can be treated fairly." Yin Xiaoxi nodded non-committally and sent him off. But just as Yin Xiaoxi sent Gareth all the way to the door based on the principle of diplomacy, a subordinate ran in frantically. "Section Chief, he confessed. He confessed. Speak slowly, make it clear." Yin Xiaoxi frowned. The subordinate calmed down and glanced at Gareth, who was beside Section Chief Yin. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Farrell confessed. He admitted that he killed Boss Fu and the others. He also admitted that it was a murder ordered by the night agency." "What?" Yin Xiaoxi's expression changed. Mr. Gareth opened his mouth and looked around subconsciously. He realized that the agents at the entrance were looking at him in a different way. Some of them had even placed their hands on their waists where their weapons were. "Section Chief Yin, I think there might be something. Is it a misunderstanding? Yin Xiaoxi stared at Gareth and said calmly, since it's a misunderstanding, it's better to solve it as soon as possible. Mr. Gareth, maybe you should stay here longer. I think you'll cooperate with us, right? The agents of the agency did not approach him. They just put their hands on their waists and did not take out their weapons, but their attitude was very clear. This time, Mr. Gareth had only brought 2 assistants. I'm afraid I don't have a choice. Mr. Gareth smiled bitterly. Maybe I shouldn't have agreed to come and confirm with you. Mr. Gareth, please. Yin Xiaoxi stepped aside. We won't make things difficult for you. I'm back. Hey, Sister Long, you're not playing games. Hearing the little butterfly demon's incredulous voice, Kelowna Shinryu, who was sitting in the living room with a white jade-like object, rolled her eyes and said without thinking, in your eyes, I can't do anything except play games. But Sister Long, you really didn't do anything except play games recently? The true dragon of the divine land heaved a heavy sigh and squinted his eyes. Then, what's the situation with the 2 guys behind you? Let me introduce them. The little butterfly demon said quickly. This is Miss Leia. This is Mr. Ajuin. Then, I plan to temporarily take them in and let them stay here for a few days. Chapter 1938. Want to stay here? Long Shural looked at Leia and Ajuin. She felt something was wrong with this black-clothed youth. She seemed to have heard of Ajuin's name somewhere, but she couldn't remember it. Kelowna's Shinryu had always been simple, scientific, and efficient in distinguishing impressions. Impressions remembered, important recognized. Unimpressions, forgotten, unimportant. It didn't matter even if you couldn't remember. Trash, go to hell, go to hell. Ajuin was probably classified into the category of unimpressions. Yes, Mr. Ajuin and Miss Leia are really pitiful. Luo Dance nodded. You see, they were kidnapped by a big villain and forced to do things they didn't want to do. Now they can't find their way home, just like homeless kittens outside. Homeless kittens are the reason why you want to take them in? Long Shirua knew clearly that this Zhongshan butterfly wanted to bring stray cats and dogs to the pet hospital every day. 1 or 2 stray cats and dogs were okay. But Luo Dance's attitude was that once this precedent was set, the whole house would be filled with stray cats and dogs in heat. Kindness? This butterfly just likes to do what she likes. She's so pure that it's scary. She's been maintaining this wonderful innocence for a long time. It's probably not just for some reason. Shinryu of Kelowna muttered in his heart, and then looked at Ajuin and the fat girl Leia again. This sword, I don't care. Long Shaw snorted at this time. They can stay here for 1 night, but they must leave tomorrow. If they don't have money, I'll pay the toll and write an IOU. Great. Luo Dance clapped her hands and said with joy, this is a good start. I'm going upstairs, don't disturb me. Long Shaw shook her head at this time and went upstairs directly without saying a word to Ajuin and Leia. This is the Shinryu of the East? Otto frowned and said thoughtfully, it doesn't look like much. Compared to the rumors in the inhuman domain, at this moment, Leia quietly tugged at Ajuin's sleeves, hinting him to speak less. Ajuin didn't care about this. He walked in front of the little butterfly demon enthusiastically and said, Miss Luo, thank you so much. If there's anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to tell me. Then let's clean up together. The little butterfly monster smiled and handed the broom to Ajuin. There are still toilets and courtyards to be cleaned today. Mr. Ajuin, which one do you like? The yard. Audubon hesitated for a moment. The toilet was really all right. Luo Dan smiled. Thank you, Mr. Ajuin. Miss Leia, do you know how to cut vegetables? I can division of labor. Then Ajuin hummed a song and came to the courtyard of the pet hospital with the broom in a good mood. He easily saw the rather simple, ugly kennel built by Long Shaw. This smell seems to be Fafner's shit. A pair of beautiful eyes were looking at the black-clothed youth in the courtyard through the gap of the curtain. Kelowna Shinryu quickly withdrew her gaze. Long Shaw shook her head, looking outside the courtyard, and saw a police car speeding by. Something seems to have happened outside. She vaguely had a feeling. However, at this time, Long Shua's phone was directly called, To her surprise, it was a guy who didn't know how to contact. Baijia Old Taoist. Kelowna Shinryu answered the phone with astonishment. Why are you calling me? What's the matter? Lord Long, please come to Fengdu. The signal on the phone didn't seem to be very good. The Hundred Tribulations Daoist voice was also intermittent, as if he was disturbed by something urgently. Hellgate, hurry, hurry. Long Shua's eyes fixed, but the phone was directly cut off. She wanted to call back, but it showed that the call couldn't be connected. What's the matter? Kelowna Shinryu's face slightly changed. If it wasn't something important, Baiji Old Taoist wouldn't make this call. Kelowna Shinryu gritted his teeth, putting on his shoes directly, cursing. He really knows how to pick the time. Hey, Sister Long, where are you going? Is the sun going down? Ghost City. Gue City? Half an hour ago. Damn it. Sir Gareth, they have no right to detain us. The two knights who followed looked at Mr. Gareth indignantly. If Mr. Gareth's attitude was firm, the people of Kelowna Authority would not really force them to stay. Yes, this is only Farrell's side of the story. He is our traitor, and his testimony is not credible at all. It's all unfairness. Mr. Gareth waved his hand, calming down the emotional subordinates. Unfair treatment will not be without reason. There will always be a reason behind this kind of unfair treatment. Could it be that Kelowna Authority is doing this on purpose? The subordinates said in disbelief. For what? During this sensitive period? Who knows? Mr. Gareth smiled casually, but this is not necessarily a bad thing. At least, we already know Farrell's current location. So what? Looking at the attitude of Kelowna Authority, they will not easily let us extradite him. Then let's take Farrell away, Mr. Gareth said suddenly. The two loyal subordinates were shocked at this time. At this time, Mr. Gareth intentionally or unintentionally moved closer and said in a low voice, We must take Farrell away. We can't let Farrell's secret be discovered by the people of the Shenzhou administration. What's secret? Mr. Gareth said expressionlessly. The reason why he can be so powerful. Farrell has the highest and only power of our knight organization, which can fight against the entire European continent and even the world's power. Unexpectedly, the two subordinates opened their eyes wide in an instant. At this time, the door of the reception room opened, and a total of 4 agents of the authority came in. I'm sorry, everyone, but you have to stay here for the time being. If there's anything you need, you can tell us. Just in time, Mr. Gareth walked in with a smile. We do need some food and drinks. Mr. Gareth walked in front of the agent and suddenly waved his hand to hit the agent's temple. His move was as fast as lightning, and the huge impact knocked the agent out instantly. The remaining 3 investigators reacted instinctively, but the other 2 knight subordinates also went berserk at the same time. Within a few seconds, the 4 investigators had already fainted on the ground. Mr. Gareth, if we can't handle it, we don't care so much. Gareth began to take out the agent's passes and said quickly, As long as we can take Farrell away, it's worth it even if we don't participate in this meeting. You don't understand how important the power hidden in Farrell is to us. The alarm suddenly sounded. The entire temporary headquarters building sounded the alarm. It was the sound of a fire alarm. At the same time, 2 consecutive floors exploded almost at the same time, suspected to be under attack. Under the state where all extraordinary powers were banned, the Kelowna Authority seemed to have a hard time quickly locking the enemy's position with lightning speed. Everyone was pulled down to the level of an ordinary person, although this ordinary person's level was different from each other. What happened? Go out and take a look. In the interrogation room, there were still 4 heavily armed agents guarding Farrell. At this time, the alarm sounded, and the 4 agents suddenly became nervous. However, the moment the door was opened, a few shockwave-like lights directly shot into the room, and the agents in the interrogation room were knocked to the ground. After twitching a few times, they fainted. At this time, Gareth was holding a gun specially made by the authority and walked in quickly. Farrell, who was resting with his eyes closed, slowly opened his eyes. Mr. Farrell, Mr. Gareth smiled and said, I recently changed to holding a gun instead of a sword. Yin Xiaoxi walked in the corridor filled with thick smoke and sprinkled water, her face pale. A message was delivered to her almost at the same time. Section Chief Yin of the Authority glanced at it, and then turned around with a cold face, staring at the agents behind him in awe. Search the entire city. None of the British envoys are allowed to leave the hotel. Section Chief Yin finished expressionlessly, and then directly pushed away his subordinates behind him, and said in a deep voice, "Bring me my equipment." At this time, an official car was running at high speed on the road, and even ran through one red light after another. This won't do. The metal used for these shackles is very special. There's no way to pry it open. In the official car, except for the knight who was driving, Gareth and the other knights were sitting at the back with Farrell, trying to find a way to open the shackles on Farrell. "Don't bother. As long as we leave the city, I can open it myself," Farrell said calmly. "Looks like that's the only way." Mr. Gareth nodded. "Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Farrell." Farrell said calmly, "I've lived in a British prison for 100 years. This is nothing compared to that." Mr. Gareth received a call from the Knight Organization's envoys. The Kelowna Authority has already surrounded the Knight Organization's envoys in the hotel. Mr. Gareth took a deep breath and said, "I hope my adventure this time is worth it. Mr. Farrell, you've caused us a lot of trouble. Why did you confess to murder and tell the authority that the Knight Organization was behind this?" "I don't want to trouble you," Farrell said calmly. "I didn't kill anyone, nor did I see them." "Then why did you?" Gareth frowned. "Someone deliberately framed you behind your back. Is it to provoke a conflict between the transcendents of the two countries?" "You brought me out, so the conflict has already appeared," Farrell said calmly. "But it doesn't matter. The worse the environment, the more powerful warriors can be trained. You lack the baptism of war. Maybe the other side is the same." Mr. Gareth smiled bitterly and said, "Even if I know it's a framing, I have no choice but to take you away. Mr. Farrell, you're too important to us. I can't let any possibility of exposing your secret appear. Even if I know it will cause a serious diplomatic incident, I can't care so much." Farrell was silent, but he gave Gareth a strange look. Mr. Gareth said again, "When we leave the city and recover our strength, I'll immediately take you back to Britain. The sooner the better. There's no time for us to hide." Before the delegation entered the city, I've secretly arranged for a few people to stay in a house outside the city to deal with unexpected situations. They can be used now. Mr. Gareth, we're lucky that the authority didn't catch up with us. They were already on the road to the suburbs, and the commercial car was still running fast on the path with some fields in sight. The knight driving the car turned back and chuckled. "It's all thanks to this communicator. The agents of the authority don't look like much. They've been using the public channel to communicate, so we can avoid their pursuit. It's a pity for our partners. I hope they won't be troubled while trapped." Things went too smoothly. Mr. Gareth frowned and said, "Although we suddenly took Mr. Farrell away and caught the authority off guard, it went too smoothly. I don't think the authority has the ability to imagine." The subordinate driving the car said disapprovingly, "It said that the East is a terrible place. I think this is only because the East has Shinryu. However, the overly powerful deterrents also severely restricted their development as transcendents. Perhaps it's just that we've always lacked a correct understanding of the authority, and we've imagined them to be too powerful." Mr. Gareth didn't speak, but he stared ahead. A lonely two-story building appeared in front of them. "We're here." The official car soon arrived in front of the small building. Everyone got out of the car and looked around, but it was desolate. The small building looked more like it had been abandoned, and it didn't look like anyone lived here. No one would have thought that there were still people hiding here. "Isn't too quiet?" The subordinate frowned at this time. After walking out of the city, the extraordinary power in their bodies had recovered, and their perception had become stronger again. Mr. Gareth frowned, but at this time he stopped the car. He walked to the door alone and pushed it gently. The unlocked door panel slowly opened, and inside was an empty hall. Mr. Gareth knocked on the door panel in a special way at this time. In the empty hall, the floorboards suddenly moved and slowly opened. Mr. Gareth's eyes focused, and he saw a cold light flying directly toward him. Gareth's face changed, and he dodged quickly. The cold light flashed and directly hit the wall of the small building behind Gareth, and they all fell down in an instant. Ambush! Gareth shouted at this time. At the same time, in the courtyard, a dozen figures emerged from the ground in an instant and surrounded the four people in an instant. These people were all equipped with special weapons and black helmets. At this time, in the living room of the small building, a figure had also walked out. This person was also wearing a black helmet, and his hands were holding a strange-looking silver spear as he slowly walked out. The three people of the night mechanism were now protecting Farrell in the center, and Gareth's eyes were locked on the other side. Presumably, my subordinates have already suffered, right? It's great that so many people are here to welcome us. However, I'm afraid it's unrealistic to want to keep us here. This place is already out of the forbidden area. It was a processed voice that came from the black helmet. Mr. Gareth, you're proud of your strength as the 12 Knights, right? Gareth chuckled and waved his hand. A unique coat of arms appeared on the back of his hand. But at the same time, the dozen heavy armored people surrounding the four people also took out a short stick the length of a palm, and at the same time, raised it high to the sky. The short stick emitted light and finally gathered above everyone's heads. At the same time, a slight vibration appeared, and the entire sky above the small building was instantly covered by electric light. The coat of arms on the back of Mr. Gareth's hand dimmed little by little. His expression couldn't help but change slightly until the battle patterns of the 12 Knights' power completely dimmed. Forbidden! Mr. Gareth was instantly shocked. The leader of the black armored people said indifferently, "It can't compare to this city's forbidden area, but it can slightly disrupt the flow of magic in your body. However, it's enough." The leader of the black armored people waved his hand, and the dozen or so black armored people instantly moved. The weapons in their hands were about to fire. Gareth, who couldn't successfully put on the 12 Knights' armor, couldn't help but have a dignified expression when facing these weapons. It may not be difficult for you to avoid them. I just don't know how your two subordinates are doing. The leader of the black armored people chuckled. Mr. Gareth, our goal is only Farrell. As long as you're willing to cooperate, I won't make things difficult for you. The enemy approached step by step, and Mr. Gareth's expression became more and more dignified. Sir, if you want someone to cooperate, you should at least show some basic sincerity. I don't even know your identities. You will know, as long as you agree to cooperate. The leader of the black armored people said indifferently. I know who you are. Mr. Gareth suddenly said at this time. Oh, then tell me. The leader of the black armored people tilted his head, but raised the silver special long gun and aimed. If you're right, I'll shoot once. If you're wrong, I'll shoot twice. Relax, this isn't fair treatment. Mr. Gareth raised his hands at this time, surrendering. As the representative of Britain's transcendent diplomatic corps, I request to be treated fairly. Representative of the diplomatic corps? The leader of the black armored people laughed. You're now the criminals who kidnapped the suspect from the Kelowna administration. Suna. Mr. Gareth smiled mysteriously at this time. The leader of the black armored people paused, and then said in a deep voice, capture them, as long as they're alive. Almost at the same time as the leader of the black armored people gave the order, the dozen or so black armored people pulled the triggers of the weapons in their hands, and in a split second, beams of light poured directly on the bodies of Gareth and the other three. This round of shooting lasted for nearly 20 seconds, but after the smoke and dust rose, the scene of them falling to the ground was not what the black armored people imagined. Beside Mr. Gareth and the other three, a golden phantom of a pagoda directly appeared. The phantom of the pagoda clearly blocked all the light beams. Luminous pagoda, Mark 6. Impossible. How can you have such a thing? The leader of the black armored people exclaimed in disbelief. This so-called phantom of the luminous pagoda Mark 6 actually came from one of Mr. Gareth's subordinate knights. This knight's hands were now opening a strange silver mirror in the shape of 8 trigrams. Nothing is impossible. The knight holding the silver mirror said indifferently, just like the luminous godly flame Mark II you're using now. This is the latest batch of equipment from the Kelowna administration. If you can use it, why can't others use it? Impossible. The 4 guards you knocked down in the command center can't have such equipment. Sir, how do you know how many watchmen we've hit? Mr. Gareth abruptly interrupted him. You seem to be very familiar with the administration, right? Humph. The leader of the black armored people snorted. Don't worry about the luminous pagoda, Mark. It can't last forever. Increase the firepower. The knight holding the luminous pagoda, Mark VI, threw the silver mirror to Mr. Gareth's side. At the same time, his figure flashed out and instantly split into 2 phantoms, attacking the leader of the black armored people from both sides. The leader of the black armored people was not too flustered. He reached out his hand and pulled out a sharp metal blade from the silver spear in his hand. Lightning flashed and thunder roared on the blade. The knight who split into 2 phantoms directly punched forward at this time, and the other kicked out with a spinning leg. The leader of the black armored people hit one of the phantoms with his spear, and at the same time, the sharp blade in his hand slashed at the other phantoms. Only a ding sound was heard, and the phantoms of the knight who was slashed by the sharp blade actually blocked it with their arms. The leader of the black armored people was shocked at this time, but the knight had already pressed his palm on the leader's chest. Under the power of the palm, the leader of the black armored people directly flew out. The dozens of black armored people around immediately rushed to attack at this moment, not giving the knight a chance to chase after the leader of the black armored people. But the knight was not in a hurry. He stood still and looked around. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, a silver light transformed into a vigorous silver dragon, swimming in the middle of the crowd. When the silver dragon stopped, the 10 or so black armored people fell to the ground one after another. A young man with gray hair, wearing a loose hip-hop style short-sleeved shirt and shorts, had already appeared in front of everyone. The hip-hop style young man was even carrying a black spear on his shoulder at this time. The hip-hop style young man smiled brightly at this time, waving his hand and saying, "Yo, I came at the right time, right?" Only the leader of the black armored people who was knocked down was left. The leader of the black armored people climbed up in a sorry state, looking at the young man with the black spear, saying in horror, "God-petrifying spear, Tu Kai. Why are you here? Impossible, why are you here?" The young man named Tu Kai shrugged and said with a smile, "Why can't I be here? My master is here. My junior brother is here too. Is it strange for me to be here?" While saying this, the young man looked at the knight who knocked down the leader of the black armored people with one palm. The leader of the black armored people at this time looked at this powerful knight in horror, saying in a trembling voice, You are? Junior brother Yen. How long are you going to wear this human skin mask?" The young man squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Your original appearance is much more handsome." Knight, the knight who took out the Dao Light Pagoda Type 6, stretched out his hand and tore at his neck. He tore open a human face and revealed his original appearance. "Yin Xiaoxi." The leader of the black armored people screamed at this time, "It's really you. When did you find out?" Section Chief Yin of the Kelowna administration, who had taken off his disguise, said expressionlessly, "I didn't find out. You just exposed yourself. Or you did more actions." At the same time, something as small as a button shot out from Mr. Garrett's fingers and directly hit the leader of the black armored people. It didn't have much power, and the small button-like thing instantly fell to the ground. Mr. Gareth said indifferently, "Do I look really bad to the extent that I didn't even notice that I was bugged? When you sent me and my 2 subordinates to the reception room and locked them up, you took the opportunity to put something on me." I quickly confessed to Section Chief Yin of the Administrative Bureau. "Impossible. You didn't have any contact after that. How could you? Didn't I tell you?" Mr. Garrett smiled and shrugged. When your Section Chief Yin was still a Secret Service agent in charge of collecting foreign intelligence, he was stationed in the city under my jurisdiction. More or less, we still have a little bit of personal friendship. Under the black helmet, the expression of the leader of the black armored people couldn't be seen, but it seemed to be unimaginable. Mr. Gareth chuckled and said, At first, I was just curious, so I casually made up some reasons. I didn't expect that there would actually be people who would believe such a reason. And so quickly, now that I think about it. The reason we were able to kidnap Farlier so smoothly was probably because you helped us in the dark, right? The power hidden in Farrell's body is fake. The leader of the black armored people gritted his teeth and said, "No, it's real." Mr. Gareth said indifferently, "In Mr. Farrell's body, there was indeed the highest and only power of our knight organization that could fight against the entire Eurasian continent and even the world, a power that belonged only to knights." "What is it?" "A knight's creed and belief," Mr. Gareth said slowly. "All of a knight's power comes from a knight's belief. This is the source of our knight's power." "Damn it, you actually tricked me." The leader of the black armored people gritted his teeth. But at this moment, the young man, Tukai, suddenly frowned. Farrell, who was still shackled, raised his gaze. Yin Xiaoxi's expression also changed slightly. A sword light flashed, and the leader of the black armored people was instantly split into two. His corpse fell to the ground on both sides. At this moment, on top of the small building, a young man with a cold expression was looking down at everyone. The young man had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. He was handsome beyond compare, as if he was looking down on the world. "Looks like this is the real deal. Junior brother." The young Tu Kai narrowed his eyes. The black iron spear in his hand seemed to be itching to try and actually started to slowly rotate. "Yes, I'm afraid this is the real deal." Yin Xiaoxi took a deep breath and said solemnly, "This is another powerful aura that I felt at the scene of Boss Fu's death, and this person does indeed have the qualifications to possess such a powerful aura." "Junior brother, you know this guy?" The young Tu Kai frowned. "Of course I do," Yin Xiaoxi said in a low voice. "How could I not know? This is the most outstanding genius of the Gongsun family in the Xianyuan Palace in the past 1,000 years. Gongsun Shiyu. Chapter 1939. From the Gongsun clan of the Xianyuan Palace? Tu Kai's calm expression faded as he pondered. Yin Xiaoxi cupped her fists and said loudly, "Gongsun Shiyu, I hope you can give the Kelowna administration a reasonable explanation. Is this your personal action, or is there something else behind it?" The young man upstairs, Gongsun Shiyu said calmly, "It's just that my subordinates were greedy and acted on their own without any evidence. The result is clear. Since they were set up, they deserve to die." "What a ruthless person." The young man, Tu Kai, sneered. "He killed his subordinates without hesitation. Very straightforward. They were my subordinates, not mine," Gongsun Shiyu said calmly. "But no matter what, I've cleaned up the place." "Did you kill Fu Mingxian?" Yin Xiaoxi stepped forward. "There's an aura left at the place where they died. It's the same aura as yours." Gongsun Shiyu glanced at Yin Xiaoxi casually and said, "We'll meet again." He turned and left without saying anything else. Yin Xiaoxi's expression darkened. She bent her legs and leaped up. Even the Gongsun clan of the Xianyuan Palace needs to give the administration an explanation. Section Chief Yin slapped his palm toward Gongsun Shiyu's back. The sound of wind and thunder rumbled within a radius of 100 feet. The shadows of 10 tigers and 10 lions condensed behind the section chief of the Administrative Bureau. Gongsun Shiyu pointed his finger. He broke Yin Xiaoxi's 10 tigers and 10 lions with one finger. Yin Xiaoxi immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backward. Seeing this, the young man, Tu Kai, immediately rushed forward and caught Yin Xiaoxi. At the same time, he also stabbed the awakening god spirit Gongsun Shiyu. Gongsun Shiyu formed a sword seal and waved it in the air. The awakening god spear was slashed to one side. After landing, Tu Kai frowned and waved his hand. The awakening god spear that was slashed in the air turned around and fell into his hand. Awakening god spear, Tu Kai, Yin Xiaoxi. The disciple of the fire cloud, evil god, is only SOSO. Gongsun Shiyu retracted his hand. Still, it's quite rare for a secular cultivator outside of the Xianyuan Palace to be able to cultivate to this level. Like I said, today's matter ends here, and we'll meet again. A sullen expression formed on Tu Kai's face while Yin Xiaoxi turned as pale as a sheet. However, at this moment, a crazy and ruthless aura that made one's heart palpitate soared into the sky behind them like a tsunami. After being out for so long, I finally met someone who's passable. This was clearly Farrell's voice. His voice was not loud, but it was clear. Yin Xiaoxi subconsciously looked over. Under Farrell's crazy and violent aura, Mr. Gareth even had to take 3 steps back. At this moment, Farrell slowly walked forward. As he lifted his leg, the special shackles under his feet instantly broke. With a tug of his hands, the shackles in his hands also shattered. The moment the shackles on his body were removed, the evilest knight in history disappeared from everyone's sight. Almost in the next moment, the 2-story building in front of them shattered, and Gongsun Shiyu's figure soared into the sky. However, before Gongsun Shiyu reached the top, a black shadow appeared behind him. Farrell was already behind Gongsun Shiyu, like a wild wolf that had caught its prey. Bang! The evilest knight directly punched out. Gongsun Shiyu seemed to be unable to react in time, and his body was instantly smashed to the ground by the fist. However, Farrell, who had already made his move, was like a merciless war machine. He did not stop because of this, but instead continued to pursue. The moment Gongsun Shiyu's body landed heavily on the ground, creating a deep pit, Farrell had already landed. He grabbed Gongsun Shiyu's right leg with one hand, lifted him up, and slammed him left and right repeatedly. Bang, 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 bang. The scene was horrifying. Little junior brother, where did you pick up such a ferocious fellow? The young man, Tu Kai, opened his mouth. I would rather be caught by master as a punching bag than fight with this guy. Yin Xiaoxi did not say a word. This was the evilest knight who had almost destroyed the entire knight organization. Just as everyone was frightened by Farrell's strength, Gongsun Shiyu, who had been beaten up all this time, suddenly reached out and pressed the ground. His body suddenly spun, and he forcibly broke free from Farrell's grasp. He kicked Farrell's chest, and the kick moved Farrell more than 10 meters away. Gongsun Shiyu flipped over and landed on the ground. Except for his damaged clothes, he was unscathed. He swept the dirt off his sleeves and said, "You're Farrell, the mad knight who was imprisoned for 100 years? You don't seem to be much. You can't even break my Xianyuan golden body. I'm afraid history's evaluation of you is too high." Interesting, interesting. Farrell was not angry. Instead, he laughed. I like warriors like you. Arrogant and supercilious. The more you are like this, the more potential you have. But it's not enough. Gongsun Shiyu shook his head and formed a sword spell again. A 3-foot-long sword light instantly extended from his fingers. With a trace of the Yellow Emperor's bloodline and the supreme martial arts of the Xianyuan Palace, this rare genius of the Gongsun family could even use a trace of the sword energy of the Xianyuan Sword of the 9 Provinces divine weapon. He didn't really need to use a trace of the sword energy of the Xianyuan Sword of the 9 Provinces divine weapon. Mr. Farrell, catch! At this moment, Mr. Gareth summoned the weapon of his knight armor. An azure light immediately surrendered to Farrell. It was an ice blue knight's longsword. However, Farrell waved his hand and swept the ice blue knight sword to the side. Mr. Gareth instantly felt bad. Why is he so disgusted with it? At this moment, the sword energy in Gongsun Shiyu's fingers had already been released. At the same time, Farrell had already used the most direct and simple method. A straight punch. A huge airwave spread out like a shockwave. In just one breath, everything within a radius of 100 meters had been flattened. Yin Xiaoxi and the others who had retreated long ago watched the final result of this fight nervously. When the light, sound, and airwave dissipated, Gongsun Shiyu stood proudly. Not far away, Farrell was still in his punching posture. Gongsun Shiyu slowly exhaled. Hundreds of wounds appeared on Farrell's body in an instant. Blood splashed out and dyed him red. You can still stand. Gongsun Shiyu chuckled. I heard that the 12 knights have their own exclusive knight armor. Only when a knight wears the knight armor can he unleash his true strength. You can do this without wearing it. He was suddenly interrupted. Is this all you've got? Farrell, who was covered in blood, slowly raised his head. If this is all you've got, I have to take back what I just said. You're not a qualified warrior. Gong Sun Shiyu's gaze hardened as he coldly snorted. Farrell suddenly took a deep breath and then coughed. As he coughed, he even spat out a few mouthfuls of thick black blood. Almost there, Farrell muttered. He casually wiped the black blood at the corner of his mouth and said, "If I don't show my true strength," before he could finish his sentence, Farrell disappeared from everyone's sight once more. This time, he also disappeared from Gong Sun Shiyu's sight. The scene from the beginning was repeating itself once again. Gong Sun Shiyu's body was directly thrown into the sky and then smashed into the ground at lightning speed. No one still couldn't catch a glimpse of Farrell's figure. It was as if Gong Sun Shiyu was alone and his body was constantly being ravaged. Smashed. The current Gong Sun Shiyu could no longer maintain his composure. His body even had a concave shape, the shape of a fist smashing into it. What's going on? Didn't this guy just spit out blood? How come he became fiercer after spitting out blood? The young man, Tu Kai, widened his eyes in disbelief. Yin Xiaoxi subconsciously looked at Mr. Gareth. Gareth laughed bitterly. Section Chief Yin, even if you look at me like this, I still... However, according to my understanding, in order to allow Mr. Farrell to stay in prison peacefully, the Knights hired a total of hundreds of secret pharmacists to poison Mr. Farrell's body together, reducing his strength to less than 1%. The black blood he spat out is probably the poison in his body, right? What did you say? Tu Kai opened his mouth. This guy has been poisoned all this time. Bang! Boom! The ground was suddenly plowed dozens of meters by a figure. Gong Sun Shiyu's body. At this moment, the extremely embarrassed Gong Sun Shiyu suddenly waved his arm. He seemed to have blocked something. They could finally see Farrell's figure. They saw Farrell take 2 steps back from Gong Sun Shiyu, sizing him up and saying, "You can already keep up. You still have potential to be developed." Gong Sun Shiyu slowly stood up after spitting out a mouthful of saliva mixed with blood. His eyes turned golden, and his face was ashen. He pressed down with his palm, and his fingers bent into the shape of a claw. "Playtime is over." Gong Sun Shiyu's voice was cold. "This is what you want, Death." The ground was shaking, as if something was about to break out of the ground. Under Gong Sun Shiyu's palm, strands of golden light entangled and gradually condensed into a golden longsword. Farrell's eyes suddenly brightened. "Come on, let me see. This is good, very good." He coughed again, this time coughing out more black pus and blood, and he gradually became fanatical. The area affected by the earthquake was getting bigger and bigger. Especially at the center of the earthquake, their gazes were constantly moving up and down. Looking at the current Gong Sun Shiyu, Tu Kai and Yin Xiaoxi felt a sense of reverence that seemed to come from ancient times. The 2 outstanding elites of the current generation of the Divine Prefecture actually had a vague impulse to worship him. Mr. Gareth didn't think so. He didn't feel it that deeply, but he knew that the power that was about to appear was probably very terrifying. But he still didn't think so, because Gong Sun Shiyu's spell was shaking for too long. If he was Farrell, he would have interrupted his opponent and continued to beat him up quickly. But he couldn't help it. Farrell was stubborn and obviously wanted to experience his opponent's strongest power. Wind seal, water seal, fire seal, earth seal, for symbols dragon and phoenix. However, just as the 2 sides were about to seriously attack, an untimely voice suddenly sounded on the battlefield. At the same time, 4 different kinds of huge power appeared at the same time. The dragon formed by the wind, the giant tortoise formed by the water, the big scarlet bird formed by the flames, and the fierce tiger formed by the rocks. 4 huge beasts charged at them at the same time from all directions. "Be careful," Tu Kai shouted. The 4 huge beasts that were charging at them exploded at the same time. Immediately, a huge, turbulent flow of energy rushed into the sky. The collision of water, fire, and earth was the heaviest, and was dispersed by the wind. A turbid mist mixed with a blazing aura instantly enveloped the area within 100 meters. Seeing this, Yin Xiaoxi directly took out a talisman made from a card from a box at her waist. It attracted a fierce wind and blew away the turbid air. Only a huge pit was left on the scene, and Pharaoh was standing in this huge pit. His body was scarlet red, and even wisps of steam were rising, but he didn't seem to be affected. However, Gongsun Shiyu was nowhere to be seen. Someone intervened to stop their battle and took Gongsun Shiyu away. Yin Xiaoxi saw through the clues at a glance. However, at this moment, Pharaoh's body suddenly shot out of the huge pit and shot in another direction, disappearing from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Pharaoh had spat out the black blood in his body twice in a row, and his strength had increased tremendously. No one knew how much he had recovered. Mr. Gareth grabbed his hair with both hands in frustration. Yin, this was your plan. Mr. Pharaoh ran away, and if anything happens to him here, the Night Division won't be responsible. Section Chief Yin was about to speak when a beam of golden light shot down from the sky. The golden light flashed, and Kelowna Shinryu's figure appeared in front of Yin Xiaoxi. At this moment, Kelowna Shinryu placed one hand on her waist and looked sideways at Yin Xiaoxi. I just stepped out, and I already sensed the movements of Jiuzhou Xinyuan. What have you guys done for me this time? Long Shurua's figure flickered in and out of existence, as if it wasn't a physical body. Yin Xiaoxi couldn't help but be startled. Lord Long, what are you? Clone. Kelowna Shinryu snorted coldly. Don't you know anything? Who told you that I don't know how to use Daoist spells? My real body is somewhere else. Don't interrupt. What happened here? Yin Xiaoxi laughed bitterly at Kelowna Shinryu's rebuke. He looked around and saw half of a corpse dug out from the ground. It was the leader of the black armored men who had been dismembered by Gongsun Shiyu. I haven't figured it out yet. Yin Xiaoxi sighed and said, but this time, it has something to do with Gongsun Shiyu from Xinyuan Palace. He was the one who appeared just now. Gongsun Shiyu? Kelowna Shinryu frowned and said, are you sure it's Gongsun Shiyu? This guy died in the spiritual energy fissure on Mount Tai. What did you say? Yin Xiaoxi couldn't help but open her mouth. No, Long Shua's clone muttered. This is indeed the movement of Jiuzhou Xinyuan. Apart from Su Zijuan and I, only Gongsun Shiyu can use a wisp of sword energy. What exactly happened? Junior brother, you should take a look at this. At this moment, the young man, Tu Kai, suddenly shouted. Tu Kai threw half of the black-armored men's corpse forward. The black-armored man's helmet had cracked, revealing his true appearance. It was half a ferocious tiger's head. This is... Yin Xiaoxi frowned. Long Shua frowned and said, this is the aura of the white tiger race. He's called Imperial Power. Yin Xiaoxi gritted her teeth and said, he's currently the 4th person to serve in the agency for 10 years. He's a senior agent and one of the team leaders. I'm afraid this batch of black armored men are all members of his team. Seems like the agency isn't made of iron. Kelowna Shinryu seemed to be deep in thought. Her figure gradually disappeared at this moment. Yin Xiaoxi, I'm in a hurry. I'll find time to go to Xinyuan Palace and figure out what happened to Gongsun Shiyu. Don't create any more trouble for me. Lord Long, is there anything urgent? Logically speaking, this wasn't a small matter. However, Kelowna Shinryu obviously want to put aside for the time being. This made Yin Xiaoxi wonder if there was something else that was important to Kelowna Shinryu. However, Long Shaw didn't respond. Her figure had already disappeared with the wind. Let's go back first. Yin Xiaoxi sighed and said. 2 silhouettes flew through the forest at high speed. They finally stopped at a small riverbank. Gongsun Shiyu and a cold-looking youth with a broken palm. Why did you stop me from killing him? Gongsun Shiyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. You should know that no one can resist the sword energy of Jiuzhou Xinyuan. No one. The youth with a broken palm. Gongsun Shishui said calmly. Let's not talk about Shinryu or the princess. With your strength, you can't even deal with Huiyun. You bastard. Gongsun Shiyu grabbed Gongsun Shishui's collar. I'm the master. That's why I have the obligation to ensure your safety. Gongsun Shishui said calmly. According to the club's assessment of Feral, In his peak state, Farrell is theoretically on the same level as Huyun. He's above the divine, general level. You really think I'm not as good as him? Gong Sun Shiyu's eyes were cold. You've made too much of a ruckus. Gong Sun Shui said calmly. Don't forget the purpose of this trip. Tomorrow is the start of the summit meeting. However, the leaders of the 4 spiritual clans still haven't agreed to what we want to do. If the plan fails, it will seriously hinder your promotion in the club. 26 seats. I'll pull them down one by one sooner or later. Gong Sun Shiyu sneered. I'll keep Farrell's head for now. He snorted and left with a wave of his sleeve. On the riverbank, Gong Sun Jishui watched as Gong Sun Shiyu left. Finally, he took out a communication device and said, It's okay. Everything is still under control. But this time, the test subject is like you when you were 10 years old and arrogant. Do as you see fit. Really? My appearance when I was young. It's good to be able to meet my stupid past self. Normal people don't have this kind of opportunity. He used the sword energy of Jiuzhou, Xinyuan. Although he didn't really release it, it must have alarmed Shinryu. It doesn't matter. It's good to let her be suspicious. It's best if she personally goes to Xinyuan Palace. Maybe it'll be more convenient for us. Do as you see fit. It doesn't matter if it fails or not, as long as it's done. I know. On the riverbank, Farrell stood in the shallow water. His gaze swept from upstream to downstream as he pondered. He had tracked them all the way here, but the 2 auras had disappeared without a trace. The Mad Knight slowly exhaled and then directly used the river water under his feet to wash off the blood and dirt on his body. The wounds caused by Gong Sun Shiyu's sword energy had already healed. At this moment, Farrell's hands suddenly stopped, and he turned around with a thoughtful look on his face. At the edge of the riverbank, a figure slowly walked over. It was a gray-haired young man. The young man held a trekking staff in his hand and carried a large wooden box as tall as a person on his back as he slowly walked over. A foreigner? The young man carrying the box muttered as he walked closer to Farrell. The Mad Knight's eyes narrowed. His gaze seemed to materialize, and a ruthless aura turned into an invisible beast. The beast directly stepped on the river and opened its terrifying mouth, directly biting towards the youth carrying the big wooden box. At this time, the young man waved the mountaineering stick in his hand calmly. In an instant, the invisible beast formed by the violent aura disappeared instantly. The river gurgled, and the scenery was pleasant. The gray-haired young man smiled and said, Relax, I don't mean any harm. I'm just passing by and wanted to get some water to quench my thirst. I'm Momo. Oh, right, nice to meet you. Chapter 1940. Farrell was sizing him up, the young man with gray hair and a big wooden box on his back. He shouldn't be old. The gray hair seemed to be a message to Farrell, giving him a sense of vicissitudes. The Mad Knight was sober most of the time. Only at certain times did he know he needed to be crazy. What kind of experience could make a person experience things that shouldn't be experienced at such a young age? Momo picked up some dry twigs and made a simple fire on the riverbank. He then scooped some river water and put it on a survival kettle. His shoes were old, probably because he had walked for a long time. Eat some. Momo opened his backpack and took out 2 zongzi. A farmer uncle gave them to me. They taste good. Zongzi, delicious. Eat. Good. Good. He opened the leaves on the zongzi and made a gesture of delicious. Then he put the unwrapped zongzi in front of Farrell and broke some twigs to use as chopsticks, eating them in small bites. Farrell just glanced at it and didn't take any action. The loose foreign language obviously wouldn't be of much use. The young celestial master of Mount Longhu couldn't help but reveal an awkward expression. Momo didn't seem to have an effective way to communicate with this foreign uncle, but as a master of Dragon Tiger Mountain, he soon showed his unique skill. Another bag, a cloth bag, was opened slowly. Farrell couldn't help but furrow his brows. He could sense that there were quite a few spirits inside the bag. Momo opened the bag, and something rushed out. Momo quickly drew something in front of him with his finger and then pointed forward. He quickly tied up the bag and smiled at Farrell. All right, you should be able to speak now. Although he wasn't very good at it, Farrell could understand the language except for the accent. Farrell looked at this young man called Momo in surprise, asking curiously, "How did you do it?" "How did I do it?" Momo thought for a while. "It's a bit complicated. Generally speaking, it's a professional skill. I'm a ghost catcher. Oh, an exorcist. I have some souls on hand. After they possess a body, they'll be able to use some of their abilities from when they were alive. For example, language or something like that. I happen to have a foreigner's soul on my hands." "Exorcist?" Farrell muttered to himself. Momo smiled casually. "You can treat me as a con man, a liar, a magician, and so on. Things like ghosts existed if one believed in them, but if one didn't, they didn't. People with ulterior motives see everything as the underworld." "Are you traveling?" Farrell suddenly asked. This was a very calm young man. For a moment, Farrell didn't have the desire to make a move. This mysterious young exorcist did not have the slightest arrogance to provoke a fight. Sitting here, he was like one of the many rocks in the small riverbank, completely blending into this place. If it wasn't for the fact that there was someone like him who didn't fit the style of the painting. He was sitting alone with a wooden box beside the firewood. It was more like a painting called The Traveler. "I'm looking for things and people." Momo chewed the food in his mouth slowly, gazing at nightfall with empty eyes. "What about you? Are you also looking for things?" "How do you know I'm looking for things?" Farrell tilted his head. "It's just a polite question." Momo smiled. "Isn't it always like this? Opening remarks, topic creation, and so on, just asking casually." "I'm indeed looking for someone," Farrell suddenly said. "I see." Momo nodded and didn't want to ask further. He glanced at the dumplings that Farrell didn't eat, saying, "Eat it. If you don't eat the ants, they will crawl over. There are a lot of insects here." "Aren't you going to ask me who I'm looking for?" Farrell continued asking. "It's not good to ask." Momo shook his head. "This is your privacy. I'm not interested in other people's privacy. Are you sure you don't want to eat?" He confirmed that even if it wasn't a loose foreign language, they couldn't communicate. The British Mad Knight returned to his original intention, intending to communicate with Momo in his own way. He stretched out his palm toward the firewood. Momo looked at his action strangely. Farrell suddenly clenched his fist. In a split second, countless roaring, evil spirits gushed out from the surroundings. The chilly wind blew. In Momo's eyes, Farrell's body was like a black quagmire that swallowed countless evil spirits. A terrifying monster was about to climb out of this muddy quagmire. The young heavenly master from Dragon Tiger Mountain opened his mouth slightly. He shuddered all of a sudden and immediately withdrew the two big zongzi. Then, he formed a seal with one hand. Farlier's beast-like eyes locked onto Momo's body, and his fist followed. However, the young heaven master of Longhu Mountain waved his hand as fast as lightning. A flowing light flashed, directly entering the Mad Knight's forehead. Farrell stopped moving. His fist was still swinging, but he just sat there motionless. The chilly wind was like a terrifying monster that climbed out of the quagmire, gradually disappearing. The swaying firewood returned to normal. Momo took out his zongzi and put one in front of Farrell. He didn't finish the one he was eating. The firewood made crackling sounds occasionally. The twilight faded away and the crescent moon rose. Once again, he turned back into the person in the landscape painting of the traveler, except that there was an additional Farrell sitting quietly and waving his fists. Piak. It was the sound of the firewood burning again. Farrell slowly opened his eyes and heaved a sigh. He put down his fist and looked at Momo with a frown. "Why didn't you attack me when I was absent-minded? We have no enmity between us. Why should I attack you?" Momo had finished his zongzi. He was lying beside the wooden box with his legs crossed, looking at the moon in the sky leisurely. "Besides, I'm afraid that I'll be beaten by you if I make a sudden move. It's dangerous to disturb a tiger's sleep." "What was that just now?" Farrell thought for a while. Momo said casually, "Mind-clearing incantation, a Taoist art that can make people have a good sleep, something like magic. I often use it on myself when I can't sleep. It's more effective than sleeping pills, but it's not as good as drinking wine, which can make people drunk." Momo took out a small flagon, unscrewing the cap and drinking a mouthful before throwing it to Farrell. "I did have a good sleep." Farrell took the flagon, but didn't drink it. He just said indifferently, 100 years. Momo gave a start, looking at Farrell with astonishment. Then he smiled. Uncle, you've taken good care of yourself. You don't have dark circles under your eyes, even though you haven't slept for 100 years. Let's postpone this battle, Farrell suddenly said. Momo chuckled bitterly and waved his hand casually in the night. A moment later, a golden talisman appeared out of thin air and slowly floated to Farrell's front. It could be used 3 times. Momo said indifferently, just stick it on your head when you can't sleep. Farrell took it, remaining silent for a while before asking indifferently, why did you help me? Fortune tellers like us depend on fate. Momo smiled. It's fate to meet you. Just consider it as a good karma. Thanks. His voice lingered in the air. When Momo looked back, Farrell had disappeared. As for when he left, Momo didn't know. What a dangerous uncle. F*CK my wine. Besides the uncle, his flagon was also gone. What loss? Momo yelled bitterly. Then he sighed, shaking his head. Looking at the moon, Momo got up and opened the big wooden box. There was a young man with a jade-like face who seemed to be asleep. Momo fetched some water from the river, wet a towel, and started to wipe the young man's face, saying softly, "Come out and bask in the moonlight, Jean, the night was boundless." The car was driven by Kai himself. At this moment, besides Yin Xiaoxi, Mr. Gareth and his subordinates, there was only the corpse of the White Tiger tribe. Mister, are you also a member of the administration? Mr. Gareth looked at the young man and asked. He's my senior too, Kai, Yin Xiaoxi said indifferently, but he doesn't belong to the administration of Kelowna. My senior is a freelancer, but he's very suitable for this action. Mr. Gareth chuckled. Your senior can hide from many people's eyes. Yin Xiaoxi didn't say anything, but her face didn't look good. Imperial Power was one of the leaders of the action group in the administration, but he acted privately under the umbrella of the administration. Yin Xiaoxi couldn't help but ask about the current situation in the administration. The reason why the administration proposed to recruit a group of monsters every 10 years was to be inclusive. Over these years, many monsters who were willing to be loyal were recruited, and the results were extraordinary. However, the disadvantages were also revealed. What made Yin Xiaoxi feel like she was sitting on pins and needles was the appearance of Gongsun Shiyu. Could it be that this was the first time the Xianyuan Palace had infiltrated the administration of Kelowna? She couldn't figure out, and there was a fog in front of her. How many outsiders were there in the administration apart from Imperial Power of the White Tiger tribe? What do you plan to do? Mr. Gareth suddenly asked. Go back now and eliminate them? Yin Xiaoxi thought for a while and said, No, I don't plan to go back yet. You don't want to go back? Yin Xiaoxi nodded and said, This time, I came out with you in disguise. At the same time, there's someone else who's using my identity to command the city in my place. This is perfect. I can remove myself from the situation and observe everything that's happening. You plan to... Mr. Gareth seemed to have thought of something. Yin Xiaoxi said indifferently, From now on, I'm your knight's servant. Mr. Gareth. So reckless. Mr. Gareth couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Don't forget that Gongsun Shiyu knows you're in disguise. It's okay. Yin Xiaoxi said indifferently. True and false. It can confuse the enemy. Whether I've changed back or not, let them guess. At this time, the young man driving in front, Kai, turned around and smiled. He blinked and said, Me too. Thank you for your advice. You're welcome. Seems like a lot happened today. When Fire Cloud, Evil God, returned to the administration's command center, the building was cleaning up the scene after the explosion. Sir Fire Cloud, you're finally back. A few agents who stayed at the scene to direct the cleanup work came forward. The backbone, this was the real backbone of the administration. What happened here? Fire Cloud, Evil God frowned and asked. He explained the cause and effect. The diplomatic group surrounding the Knight's mechanism. Fire Cloud, Evil God immediately shook his head. Let that idiot Yin Xiaoxi retreat immediately. What is this called? This is simply outrageous. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. They had never seen Consultant Fire Cloud so angry. Bring Yin Xiaoxi back immediately. Fire Cloud, evil god, snorted at this time. After bringing her back, lock her up and reflect on her actions. Isn't this a bit too heavy? Besides, the summit meeting is going to start in a dozen hours at this time. I'm the one in charge of this meeting. Fire Cloud, evil god, said indifferently. From now on, I'll take care of everything. Send an apology letter to the Knight's diplomatic group, and summon all the team leaders and above to the conference room. I want to have a meeting. Overtime pay. No overtime pay. Got it. As expected of Section Chief Yan's master, when it came to not giving overtime pay, they were indeed of the same origin. Fengdu, once it was called Yudu for tourists, this place was filled with legends of gods and ghosts from the land of Kelowna for thousands of years. The local government also used the legends as a resource to develop various scenic spots in Fengdu. But if tourists really wanted to experience the real ghost city, it was rumored that they still had to wait until nighttime, when they were unlucky. Of course, this was just a saying from the tour guides. Even at night, Fengdu was still brightly lit, except for the various palaces that were used as tourist attractions. The darkness of the night, the mountains, and the thin mist had already hidden half of these ancient buildings, and then the reverence in people's hearts had also hidden the other half, making this place unusually peaceful. The moon rose, and a stream quietly landed on the stairs of the Ghost Nation's divine palace, then slowly climbed up. Kelowna's Shinryu had just stepped through the gate of the Ghost Nation's divine palace, and in a split second, the originally dark mountains suddenly became brightly lit. With this, as the beginning, all the red and green lights climbed up the mountains, and on the ancient streets, all kinds of wandering souls shuttled back and forth. They came from different dynasties and histories, but now they were incomparably harmonious in this mysterious ghost city. Shinryu's power repelled all evil. Walking in the ghost city, if she didn't restrain this power, she was afraid that all the ghosts along the way would be directly scattered, vanishing into thin air. It was better to be a little more careful. Longshaw frowned and directly walked toward the ghost city's City Lord Hall. Because she used a concealment technique, the ghost shuttling back and forth only thought that she was a new ghost in the ghost city and didn't pay too much attention to her. Yang Chun noodles. Delicious Yang Chun noodles. Sugar-coated haws, sugar figurines, sugar paintings. Painting. Look carefully. This is the real breaking a big stone on the chest. What's on the chest is the mountains and rivers, the broken life. It was like returning to ancient times. But there were also guys wearing fashionable clothes, and there were also shops with shining neon lights. This is Roland, our shop's newly acquired handsome man in 3,000 years. Miss, do you want to come in and play? We have all kinds of boys here. When did you guys open a brothel? Kelowna's Shinryu stopped in front of a particularly eye-catching shop. In front of the shop's window, there were two male models wearing tight black briefs, and their muscles were clearly defined. Miss, is this your first time here? If you come in, I'll break your bones. Kelowna's Shinryu looked at the guy in front of him, who was wearing a suit embroidered with money and rubbing his hands, and snorted with disdain. You don't like these? We have a few faceless ghosts here, and they can provide special services. They can tailor the style to suit you, as long as you want. No matter what type, they can satisfy you, and they can definitely let you do whatever you want. Custom style. Kelowna's Shinryu couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and a certain person's face suddenly flashed in his mind. He subconsciously took a step forward. Just as he took a step forward, Kelowna's Shinryu instantly turned around and left. Bah, how could the great Kelowna's Shinryu visit a brothel? Bah, damn pauper, why are you here if you don't have money? The man with the money embroidered on his suit cursed. Kelowna's Shinryu's power was about to leak out, but Longshaw's eyes couldn't move away, and she stood there dumbfounded. What kind of shop is this? Can it really be custom-made? At this time, the true dragon of Godly Land was staring at a figure in front of the cabinet of the duck shop. It was the appearance of the person who flashed through her mind. She opened her mouth and felt that this was very scary. She subconsciously walked in front of the figure and reached out to pinch his cheeks and said in disbelief, "How did you do it? You can actually read my mind." "Miss Long, I didn't read your mind." "Eh, you're quite good at acting. You even imitated the expression and tone so well." The true dragon of China snorted coldly, and then his expression changed dramatically. She quickly realized something. Except for herself, the male model and the manager in front of the shop didn't seem to have seen what happened. It's really you?" "Good evening, Miss Long." Kelowna's Shinruas took a deep breath, and then her scalp went numb. Don't misunderstand. I didn't go to the brothel. Miss Long didn't go in. She was just loitering in front of the door. It's fine." Kelowna's Shinryu's eyes darkened. "It's over. I've been a virgin for more than 2,000 years. End of chapter. Chapter 1941. The bustling streets of the Ghost City were different from the bustling streets of the mortal world. They walked slowly among the citizens of the Ghost City. They were separated by a third person's distance, side by side. After leaving the store of the handsome man that appeared once in 3,000 years, Kelowna's Shinryu didn't say a word. She looked like she had a lot on her mind. She wanted to speak a few times, but she realized that it would be good enough if she didn't say anything. Even though the two of them were separated by some distance, they could still stroll casually without being disturbed. In the bustling streets, there were waning lights, the moon was dim, and the stars were bright. A little girl carrying a basket of flowers walked in front of Boss Luo and Long Shirua and gave them a bouquet of light yellow flowers. There was a small firefly on the petals. It was very beautiful. She gave such flowers to every citizen of the Ghost Kingdom who wandered on the streets. The yellow flower in Long Shirua's hand spun slowly, and the firefly on the petals flew away in fright. "Why did you suddenly think of coming to this place?" Kelowna's Shinryu finally took the initiative to break the silence of the Ghost City's bustling night market. He frowned. "Could it be that you, the big boss, also have your eyes on the lonely ghosts in the Ghost City?" "Lonely ghosts?" Boss Luo blinked. Kelowna's Shinryu said indifferently, "They can't reincarnate. Most of them will be destroyed by the yang energy after leaving the Ghost City. They don't have any so-called relatives in this world. They can only hide in this place where they can't see the light of day. If they aren't lonely ghosts, what are they?" Boss Luo smiled. His face was calm and didn't refute. Long Shirua rolled her eyes in annoyance. Last time, she fainted because of malnutrition, and her brain was in a mess. Now, she was no longer in the forbidden area. Kelowna's earth energy was constantly replenishing her. She was always in her best condition. It was impossible for her to be unable to walk when she saw a man. "Do you know what I hate the most about you?" Kelowna's Shinryu stopped rolling his eyes and said seriously. "What is it?" Boss Luo asked curiously. Long Shirua said sternly, "You don't have any vitality at all. You're just like an old man." Boss Luo smiled and said that he was actually more cheerful than before. Luochio walked forward and quickly merged with the souls of the Ghost City. Long Shirua had no choice but to follow. She was afraid that she would lose him. This was the only person in the entire Kelowna or even the entire world. She was not confident that she could catch up to him. "You haven't answered my question," she pressed. "Come to think of it, I've known about Ghost City for quite some time, but I haven't had the chance to see it, so I plan to take a walk before dinner. Is that really it?" Long Shirua obviously had a "don't believe you" expression. "What a coincidence. If I don't come, you won't come." Luochio smiled then. "Miss Long, just think of it as me following your footsteps to see you." Bang, 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 bang. "Then I'm really flattered?" Long Shirua sneered, her face full of disdain. She was in a good state now. She was not afraid of 100% constant battery. But why? Her heart was beating very fast. "Miss Long," Boss Luo asked curiously, "why did you come here from so far away?" Oh, it's because..." Kelowna's Shinri had changed the topic. "Why, don't you know? Shouldn't you know everything? Just like the so-called information channel you opened for me. As the store manager, if you want to get information, isn't it easier?" "Miss Long, you're joking." Boss Luo smiled. "If I want to get information, I have to make a deal with the store itself. You're the store manager. Why do you have to?" Kelowna's Shinryu's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Boss Luo said softly. I'm just the store owner. This owner is not the owner's owner. Long Shiruo frowned subconsciously. The store, the store known as that place, had always been mysterious. Other than giving up everything and receiving everything in return, it couldn't know anything else about the shop other than this rule. It was the same even for Kelowna's Shinryu. This kind of thing. Long Shiruo lowered her head, her face hidden, her voice faint. Why did you tell me? Boss Luo thought for a moment. Probably because I felt that even if I told Miss Long, it wouldn't matter. These things, you'll know sooner or later, and I don't think Miss Long will hurt me. Pung pung, pung pung. Aren't you afraid that the follower behind you will be unhappy? She looked up, her eyes burning as she looked at the guy who was still quiet in the ghost market. Why would she be unhappy? Who knows? Long Shiruo snorted, tilted her head, and muttered, You clearly know. Actually, we're very willing to make friends with different people, Boss Luo suddenly said, and we're more willing to stay by the side of people in need as friends. You want me to be friends with that damn woman? Kelowna's Shinryu instantly looked like a cat whose tail was stepped on and angrily said, No way. Unless it's me. Dead. She couldn't say it out loud. Besides, why did it have to be me who died? Unless it's that damn woman who begs me. Naturally, this sentence made him sound unyielding. I'm afraid that's still a bit difficult. Boss Luo chuckled. You only know how to help that guy. Kelowna's Shinryu muttered again, and then shook her head. I'm too lazy to argue with you here. I have something important to do. Don't get in the way. Fuck. Why did I come to Ghost City? It's a call for help from 100 Tribulations Taoist. Finally, after a few heartbeats, Kelowna's Shinryu finally remembered the purpose of this trip to Ghost City. Is there something urgent? Long Shiruo nodded. I received a call from 100 Tribulations Taoist. It seems like he's asking for help. Every year around the Hungry Ghost Festival, the gates of hell will open wide. This is a rule that has been in place since before the underworld existed. Forget it. Let's talk while we walk. The underworld, the 6 paths of reincarnation, the order of all living things in the mortal world. Nobody knew when the gates of hell stopped opening. The 6 paths of reincarnation had been lost, and the lonely souls and wild ghosts in the mortal world could only stay in the mortal world. They lost all guidance from the underworld. They couldn't walk the bridge of helplessness and couldn't drink Mang Po's soup. Over time, they brought many negative effects to the mortal world. At first, it was Xiao Shima who discovered this Fengdu Ghost City. It was connected to the road to the underworld, but half of the road to the underworld was broken. On the way, Long Shiruo explained the origin of Fengdu Ghost City with her usual simple and straightforward words. Xiao Shima couldn't cross the broken road to the underworld. He begged me for 100 days and nights. I walked over, but I couldn't see a single messenger of the netherworld. The 10 kings of hell weren't there, and half of the 18 levels of hell were empty. There was actually a little ghost sitting on Ksidagarba's lotus platform. No one knew what had happened. The road to the underworld was broken, and the 6 paths of reincarnation had disappeared. So, I had no choice but to move half of hell up here. Damn it, I was really tired out that time. This Fengdu Ghost City was built using half of the underworld. In short, I did some work as a porter, and the rest was done by Xiao Shengma, by Jia, and the other Oxnoses. With this Fengdu Ghost City built by half of hell, the lonely souls and wild ghosts in the mortal world had a place to stay. But the 6 paths of reincarnation disappeared. No matter how big this ghost city was, it was about to explode after so many years. What's worse is that although hell was broken in 2, the mechanism of opening the central gates of hell still exists. Every year at this time, the evil ghosts in the other half of hell would struggle to get out. You should have guessed what the other half of hell is. Boss Luo thought for a while and said, the so-called 18 levels of hell. Kelowna's Shinryu nodded. That's right. At that time, I found that half of the 18 levels of hell were empty, but there was still half. The half of hell that I carried back was outside of the 18 levels of hell. For so many years, every year at this time, the guys from the Taoist sect and Xiao Shengma would work together to guard it. It had always been peaceful, so I didn't care much. But this time, there seemed to be an accident. Long Shiruo nodded. Boss Luo looked around, thought for a while, and said, "But this ghost city and ghost city doesn't seem to have changed. This is what I find strange." Long Shuo muttered, "When I came here, I saw the ghost city open and felt strange. That's why I didn't go to the city lord's mansion immediately to check it out. It's not like what you see. Why would you go to a brothel?" Boss Luo didn't deny it and smiled. "It's over. I won't be able to live through this for the rest of my life." Kelowna's Shinryu's face darkened, and he kicked open the gate of the Ghost City's City Lord's residence. It's all because of the Ghost City's City Lord's lack of management. All kinds of strange shops were opened. He decided, if the Ghost City's mansion really failed this time, and some ferocious evil spirits rushed out, the first one he met, he would make it completely disappear. The City Lord's mansion is quite quiet. Boss Luo followed him into the gate of the Ghost City's City Lord's mansion. The road in front of the City Lord's mansion was abnormally gloomy and scary. Unlike the bustling Ghost City below, there was no sound at all here. Long Shuo glanced at Boss Luo subconsciously, then frowned, and strode directly into the City Lord's mansion. Shinryu's power repelled all evil spirits. In theory, there was no one who could touch her. Not only here, there was no one in the 18 levels of hell. She shouldn't have to worry about anything, but at this time, she vaguely felt uneasy. The Ghost City's liveliness and the City Lord's mansion's strangeness formed a great contrast. She couldn't even see a ghost servant. Even if Xiao Xingma and Bai Jie left here, there shouldn't be no ghost servant here. It's too strange. Long Shuo's frown deepened. But after stepping into the City Lord's mansion's main hall, her expression instantly changed slightly. There was a fierce battle here. Inside the mansion, there were tear marks everywhere. The huge City Lord's mansion's main hall, at this time, was in tatters, with only a few pillars left to support it. Bloodstains. Real bloodstains. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed in front of Boss Luo and Long Shuo's eyes, and then quickly rushed up to a higher place in the City Lord's mansion, a small building overlooking the entire Ghost City's divine palace. "Where do you think you're going?" Kelowna's Shinryu instantly shouted coldly. His body turned into a golden stream of light and instantly caught up with the fleeing figure and also climbed up the small building in front of him. Landing, Long Shuo's eyes instantly focused. She saw that the figure who led her here at this time was standing in front of the small building's grandstand, with his hands behind his back, looking down at the Ghost City's divine palace. Kelowna's Shinryu slightly tilted his head. Seeing that Boss Luo had unknowingly appeared by his side, he seemed to be relieved and said in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why did you deliberately lead me here? What does the disappearance of Xiao Xingma and the others have to do with you?" Kelowna's Shinryu, "Have you ever regretted building this ghost city back then?" The black shadow slowly said at this time, "Speak human language." Long Shuo directly sneered, "My patience is limited. I'm not a human." The black shadow shook his head and said indifferently, pretending to be mystifying. Long Shuo coldly snorted. Her eyes turned into fragments of gold, and Shinryu's power was like a scorching sun, shining in all directions. She rushed out like lightning, directly reaching out to grab the black shadow. However, she actually grabbed empty air. Kelowna's Shinryu's hand. What she grabbed was actually a black robe. The moment the robe was lifted, she saw a little girl standing in front of her with a flower basket, once again giving her a bouquet of small yellow flowers. Long Shuo, who was stunned by the scene in front of her, was stunned on the spot. "Lord Long, my name is Xiao. I'm the City Lord's adopted daughter." The little girl carrying the flower basket at this time, smiled faintly and said at this time, "Child, what's the matter with you?" Long Shuo frowned. "Lord Long Jun, have you forgotten?" The little girl holding the small yellow flowers at this time said softly at this time, "Today is the 1000th new year since the establishment of Ghost City. Therefore, everyone has prepared some gifts for you. Lord Long gifts." Kelowna's Shinryu subconsciously looked up and saw this small building. At this time, little fluorescent lights were slowly rising from the Ghost City, like a rising galaxy that filled the sky at this time. At this time, Each and every citizen of the Ghost Kingdom was holding yellow flowers, with the fireflies on the flowers, freely flying under the night sky of the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace. The city lord of Ghost City, Xiao Shengma, was impressively among them. In the middle of the galaxy, there was another place filled with dense purple fog. Surrounded by a group of sage-like Taoists, they were none other than the 100 Tribulations Taoist, the leader of the Tao Gate, and the elders of the Tao Gate who came with him. At this time, the little girl Xiao climbed on the railing of the small building at this time, opened her hands, and said loudly, "Everyone, get ready. 1, 2, 3. In a split second, thousands of voices, rang together in this continuous night sky. Many thanks, Lord Longjun. Please accept our 3 bows. Many thanks, Lord Longjun. Please accept our 3 bows. Many thanks, Lord Longjun. Please accept our 3 bows. In the galaxy formed by the starlight of the fireflies, the city lord of Ghost City, Xiao Shengma, took the lead to bow down. 100 Tribulations Taoist and the others followed closely, with a smile on their faces. The Divine Land's true dragon stood in front of the Ghost Nation's citizens that filled the sky as they danced. The dazzling fluorescent light seemed to drape her with a thin layer of soft gauze. She suddenly took a small half-step back and tilted her head. TSK. They actually did this. She bit her lips. It seems that these lonely souls and wild ghosts have already found their home. Boss Luo came to her side at an unknown time, lightly saying, "You knew it already?" Long Shuo looked up at him. Her eyes were filled with him, the fluorescent lights in the sky, and some cold fog in the night. "Tonight, you're the most beautiful." Receiving the worship of the citizens of Kelowna, Shinryu, in Luochio's eyes, was as bright as a star. He handed her a small yellow flower. Chapter 1942. The woman who let go of a drink was unexpectedly free and easy. In the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace, melodious music rang out everywhere, and red lanterns were lit up all over the mountains and plains, celebrating the 1000th birthday of this city of departed souls. In front of the city lord's mansion, in the middle of a huge bonfire, female ghosts wearing all kinds of dresses were like blooming flowers. Suddenly, a colorful ribbon fell from the sky on a high platform. Kelowna's Shinryu stepped on the ribbon and slid all the way down to the high platform, dancing gracefully. The joyful sound continued. The celebration would not stop. It would continue for 3 days and nights. The Yang realm did not care about the affairs of the Netherworld, and, similarly, the Netherworld did not care about the affairs of the Yang realm. Whether it was the extraordinary society or the secular world outside, this was the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace, a place for a group of ghosts who had no home or relatives to stay. Boss Luo was like the many ghosts of the Ghost Kingdom, wandering in the light and joy, as if looking for something. Finally, he climbed up the small building at the beginning. There was some regret in his eyes, but also some relief. Sure enough, I can't find it. The little yellow flower in his hand slowly rotated between his fingers. Fireflies floated from a distance, surrounding him and chirping. "What are you doing here alone?" Kelowna's Shinryu's voice. Boss Luo turned around. At this time, Long Shuo was wearing a white dress with a bright red tulle hanging on the outside and was barefoot. This was the dress she changed into when she paid tribute to Zhu Wu, and she had not taken it off. There was no headgear, and there was no discovery, just a head of long hair casually draped over her shoulders. Her bare feet stepped on the spotless wooden floor of the small building, and there was a small wine pot in her hand. It was the kind of wuxia movies, the kind where Lin Qingxia played the role of the sect master of the East, freely and heroically drinking wine in the Great River. "I don't belong here. Just look," Boss Luo said softly. Kelowna's Shinryu turned to look at him. His hair was loose, and his face was slightly flushed. Perhaps it was because of the wine in the pot. According to Xiao Xingma, the wine was brewed using a recipe found in Granny Meng's former residence. According to legend, Granny Meng's residence was located in half of the underworld that Kelowna's Shinryu brought back. According to the recipe, it was called departed spirit wine. But City Master Xiao was a guy who liked to pretend to be a cultured person. Just by looking at his name, it should be clear. Therefore, the Ghost City's city lord directly gave the replicated departed soul wine a different name. Sang Luo. I wonder who has fallen in love with Sang Luo this year. A drunkard loses his wine when he is not drunk, leaving others with no choice but to part. This was probably the elegance he wanted. It was really intoxicating. The slightly tipsy Kelowna Shinryu looked especially gorgeous. Under the fluorescent light, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she looked like a fairy from the Immortal Palace. You seem to be looking for someone. Long Shua thought for a while and said, You're not looking for me, but for someone else. Here, there's someone you know. Departed spirit? Old friend? Family member? Boss Luo suddenly said, No matter why I'm here, for me, to be able to see Miss Long like this tonight is an unexpected surprise. It makes me feel that this trip is completely worth it. You're saying this again. Kelowna Shinryu turned her head. She found that she was hopelessly in love with such words, even if she knew that it might be poison. Sang Luo fiercely drank a few mouthfuls of wine. Kelowna Shinryu rudely wiped her mouth with her sleeve and said loudly, I don't want to talk about this with you tonight. I'm in a good mood. Come drink with me. She directly threw the wine pot over. Boss Luo easily held the flagon in his palm. He lowered his head and looked at it, but didn't move. Kelowna Shinryu instantly became very irritated and said angrily, Don't drink it if you don't like it. Throw it away if you dare. Of course not. Boss Luo slightly smiled and slowly moved the wine pot in his palm to his lips. Kelowna Shinryu slightly gulped, like the eve of a great battle, anxiously looking at the wine pot that was slowly moved to Luocchio's lips. Almost there. Almost there. Just a little bit more. Bang. Bang. Almost there. Ha ha ha. Master Long, so you're here. At this moment, the 100 Tribulations' Taoist hearty laughter sounded in the small building. Kelowna Shinryu was startled, as if he was caught doing something bad. He subconsciously turned around and saw not only the 100 Tribulations Taoist, but also Xiao Xingma and a group of Taoist elders. Master Long, why are you here alone? Xiao Xingma cupped his hands and asked. Alone? Kelowna Shinryu instantly reacted and fiercely turned around. On the stands of the small building, there was no trace of that person. Only a few fireflies were floating casually. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Kelowna Shinryu instantly clenched his fist, his whole body slightly trembling. Master Long, what's wrong with you? Xiao Xingma couldn't help but ask hesitantly. He saw that Kelowna Shinryu seemed to be a little strange. At this time, a Taoist elder stroked his beard and said with a smile, I think Lord Dragon Monarch is excited because of our arrangement today. It must be because the arrangement we made today has moved Lord Dragon Monarch too much. It's not bad, not bad. Lord Dragon Monarch racked his brains for Ghost City. We only did some insignificant things. Dragon Monarch doesn't have to be so excited. Yes. Kelowna Shinryu slowly turned around and put on a fake smile. I'm so King touched. Go to hell. Rumble. The people of the Ghost Kingdom didn't know what happened. However, the small building of the City Lord's mansion suddenly collapsed. Then, thousands of golden lights instantly rushed into the sky, as brilliant as fireworks. In the collapsed building, a half-dead old man kept mumbling, Lord Dragon God is too excited, too excited. The celebration became more lively. The little girl Xiao brought a cup of hangover tea and delivered it to Kelowna Shinryu. At this time, Kelowna Shinryu was impatiently looking out of the window. In the room, Xiao Xingma and the others who had just survived were all silent. Shinryu's secret. Oh, after the grand fireworks, they sat in the Ghost City Lord Mansion's meeting room. Xiao, go out and play. Xiao Xingma told the little girl at this time. She sighed in response and then left, humming a little tune. When did you adopt a daughter? Kelowna Shinryu suddenly asked. I've never heard you mention it. It happened in the last 50 years. Xiao's mother died early, and she also died early. She wandered alone in the Ghost City, and I was moved by compassion. This child is similar to me. The true dragon of the divine land stopped resting his chin on his hand. He picked up the hangover tea and slowly took a sip. When Xiao Xingma didn't speak, his whole face looked particularly gloomy. It was the kind of face that could easily jump out the word villain in one's mind. But in fact, the city lord of this ghost city was very womanly. Not only did he like to pretend to be elegant, but he could also do needlework, farming, and herding cows. This guy was actually very suitable for living. Long Shirua shook his head again. Then he thought of something and glared at Hundred Tribulations Taoist. But I really didn't expect that you, the Mount Tai of Taoism, would join hands with Xiao Shengma to trick me. Well done, Hundred Tribulations little brat. You've really learned something. Hundred Tribulations Taoist was originally immortal-like, but now there was a black circle under his left eye, but he still looked like an immortal. He coughed dryly and said, "This matter is over. Lord Dragon King doesn't need to make fun of this old Taoist anymore." This was just a spur of the moment. City Lord Xiao and the others were just dragged along. Kelowna Shinryu sneered, making Hundred Tribulations Taoist break out in cold sweat. It shouldn't be like this. She was clearly very happy during the celebration, having fun with the people of the Ghost Nation. Why did her mood change so abruptly and suddenly become irritable? Surprise? I'm afraid it's not a shock. Long Shua snorted and said, "I really thought something happened to you. You failed to guard the Ghost Gate and came all the way here. Don't you know that tomorrow morning is the first day of the World Superhuman Summit?" Hundred Tribulations Taoist and Xiao Xingma looked at each other. Hundred Tribulations Taoist said seriously, "In fact, before Dragon King arrived, we were indeed attacked. The traces of fighting and destruction in the main hall of the City Lord Mansion were not made up by us. They are real." "Really?" Long Shirua frowned subconsciously. "What happened?" Xiao Xingma said slowly, "For this year's Ghost Gate Guard, Mr. Hundred Tribulations and the others came earlier than usual. Perhaps it was because they wanted to rush to the Superhuman Summit tomorrow, so they wanted to come earlier to prepare. However, just as we finished preparing and were about to suppress the Ghost Gate, a group of people suddenly appeared and ambushed us. They almost made us fail this time. To be honest, the situation was very dangerous at that time, and Mr. Hundred Tribulations was even slightly injured." "Who were they?" Kelowna Shinryu asked directly. "Their identities are unknown." Hundred Tribulations Taoist shook his head, but one thing is certain, they all wore metal helmets and were like death warriors. They were not afraid of death, and once they failed, they would instantly detonate themselves, leaving nothing behind. The only thing that is certain is that these ambushers were all warriors, and they were not weak. Then, Hundred Tribulations Taoist waved his hand, and a white fog spread out on the table. After the white fog dispersed, a metal mask with a different shape appeared on the table. This was left behind by the ambushers after they exploded. "What do you think, Master Dragon King?" "Warriors?" Kelowna Shinryu pondered. "Warriors who could even hurt Hundred Tribulations Kid." She looked at the tattered mask on the table and had no clue at all. "I didn't notice." Hundred Tribulations Taoist smiled bitterly and then said, "I think it's because I only cared about drinking tea and neglected practicing. You can't blame others." Long Shua shook her head and said, "Most of the powerful warriors in the world have already joined the administration. Other than that, there is only the Xinyuan Palace. There are indeed some scattered warriors among the people, but they are the weakest ones, and it's difficult for them to deal with ordinary monsters and ghosts. Warriors who can threaten you, and a group of them at that. Where did they come from?" Everyone in the meeting room was silent. Obviously, they didn't know where to start. Where they came from is secondary. What's more important is that this group of mysterious warriors chose this special day when the Ghost Gate was open to attack. The purpose behind this is really worrying. At this moment, a Taoist elder said with a solemn expression, "Fortunately, there weren't any flaws in the defense of the Ghost Gate this time. If the defense had failed, the evil ghosts and resentful spirits of the 18 levels of hell would have rushed out, and they would have definitely caused chaos in the Divine Continent." Long Shua nodded and said, "However, you were ambushed in the dark, and it was a dangerous time to guard the Ghost Gate, but you were able to protect everything, and there were no casualties. I still have to praise you. In short, you worked hard. Actually, it's not all because of us. Castellan Xiao smiled bitterly at this time. It was all because of one person that we were able to pass the Ghost Gate. Who? Master Dragon King. Do you remember the 70th generation of Tianxin of the Cloth Sect? Xiao Shuma said slowly. It's that old ghost. Long Shaw stared blankly for a moment, then came to a realization. The Cloth Sect now only existed in name. Other than Mr. Blind Qing Xiazi, who was the scapegoat of Mount Tai's disaster, there was only the 70th generation of Tianxin, who should have died long ago, but was secretly saved by Xiao Shuma using the 10,000 Ghost Pagoda, the real old ghost. The 70th generation of Mr. Tianxin, although he lost his heavenly eyes and heavenly heart, his divination ability is still extraordinary. Xiao Shuma smiled slowly. Earlier, when Ghost City was about to welcome its 1,000th day, this Castellan had a sudden impulse and entered the 10,000 Ghost Pagoda to find Mr. Tianxin and ask about the next millennium of Ghost City's future. Mr. Tianxin made a divination and said that Ghost City would face a bloody disaster in the near future. This Castellan thought about it and was always on guard. Coincidentally, the day of the Ghost Gates opening arrived, so I thought that if Ghost City was going to welcome a bloody disaster, it might be today, so I made a few more arrangements. Fortunately, although the sneak attack came suddenly, Ghost City is still safe and sound. This old ghost doesn't have his heavenly heart and heavenly eyes, so how can he be so accurate? Kelowna's Shinryu frowned doubtfully. Mr. Tianxin has deep attainments in geomancy divination. Even without the Cloth Sect's heavenly heart and heavenly eyes, he should be one of the best divination masters in Kelowna. Lord Dragon Monarch, don't underestimate the path of divination. I'll enter the 10,000 Ghost Pagoda. Kelowna's Shinryu suddenly said. Ghost City's Castellan was startled, and so were the Dao Sect's elders. Kelowna's Shinryu had already turned into a stream of light and rushed into Castellan Zhao's sleeve. The 10,000 Ghost Pagoda was inside Xiao Shuma's sleeve. Xiao Shuma pulled up his sleeve at this time, as if he didn't know whether to cry or be angry. This? Lord Dragon Monarch. This time, there must be a deep meaning. 100 Tribulations Taoist calmly said, while stroking his beard. Everyone, let's wait for a while. That's true. Xiao Shuma nodded. After all, Kelowna's Shinryu wouldn't be like this if it wasn't important. Perhaps it was an important matter related to the whole Kelowna. Yes, it must be like this. In a small bamboo forest in the 10,000 Ghost Pagoda, there was the sound of a zither. Kelowna's Shinryu directly knocked away the bamboo leaves and came to a pavilion in the bamboo forest. The 70th generation of the Cloth Sect's Heaven's Heart was playing the zither here. Lord Dragon Monarch, after the farewell in the Penglai Treasure House, how are you? Mr. Tianxin of the 70th generation stopped at this time and smiled slightly. I don't know why Lord Dragon Monarch is looking for this old ghost. Kelowna's Shinryu sized up the old man in the pavilion. Aren't you very good at divination? Tell me why I am here. Tianxin of the 70th generation bitterly smiled. Lord Dragon Monarch is Kelowna's Shinryu. Telling you is telling the future of the whole Kelowna. If I can't do it, I will die. TSK. Trash. Kelowna's Shinryu instantly disdained. Tianxin of the 70th generation suddenly changed the topic and said coldly, but if it's just some small things to seek fortune and avoid misfortune, it's still okay. Of course, marriage and whatnot, it's okay. How do you know? Kelowna's Shinryu was startled and stopped talking. She had really rushed in on impulse, intending to ask about marriage. Chapter 1943. Old Geezer Tion Xian, how much power do you have left in your divination? Kelowna's Shinryu suddenly asked in a roundabout manner. 70th Tion Xian said indifferently. Not even 10% of when Tion Xian's heavens, I was still around. Long Shirua frowned. Then didn't you still predict that Ghost City would be in trouble? 70th Tion Xian said, it's just according to the divination, I don't know what kind of trouble it is. The reason why Ghost City is safe and sound is because of City Lord Zhao's cautious personality. If City Lord Xiao didn't take it seriously, the result might be different. Kelowna's Shinryu pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "Do you know why I came to see you?" 70th Tian Xian smiled. "It can't be because of reminiscing about the past. People in the world come to see this old man for nothing else. There's a pot here. If Lord Longjun has thought it through, you can shake out the lot." The 70th Heavens will waved his hand, and a wooden cylinder filled with sticks appeared on the stone table in the pavilion. It might not be accurate, but it can be used as a reference. "Lord Dragon Monarch, there is no need to worry." She looked at the pot, and after a while, she stretched out her hand. But when she was about to grab the pot, she suddenly stopped. "Forget it. I don't want to harm you," 70th Tianxin smiled. "It said that those who reveal heaven's secrets will not have a good ending. This old man already doesn't have a good ending, turning into a wandering ghost and struggling at death's door. I can only be like this in the future. It won't get any worse. At most, my soul will be destroyed. Since Cloth Dao is gone, there's no use for me to stay." Kelowna's Shinryu frowned. "Isn't your disciple Qing Shazi still wandering outside?" 70th Tian Xian said. "After Mount Tai's incident, Qing Shazi no longer has anything to do with Cloth Dao. Even if Tian Xian's heaven's eye is with Qing Shazi, it has nothing to do with this old man. Cloth Dao's mission is over. Xin Yuan Palace's princess has said that Cloth Dao should no longer exist in this world. Since that's the case, let the plainclothes path come to a true end in my hands." "You?" Kelowna's Shinryu was stunned. "Let this old man perform the last divination for Lord Dragon Monarch." With that, the 70th Heavens will waved his hand, and the lots on the pot shot out. They lined up and wrapped around Long Shirua. "Keep this divination." Long Shirua frowned and swept away these pieces of paper with a clap. Who would have thought that the 70th Heaven's heart's eyes would suddenly light up? He stretched out his hand and grabbed one of the scattered lots. He said loudly, "Thank you, Lord Dragon Monarch, for giving me this lot. Old Devil Tian Xian." Long Shirua was shocked. "Please listen to the sign." The 70th Heaven's heart raised the lot in his hands and said loudly, "Lot 6, Lot 9, Lot chosen. Second time. Don't read it." Kelowna's Shinryu's body shone with golden light. However, before the golden light could be released, the 70th Heavens had already collapsed. Only his voice was left. The poem says, "In winter, there are plum blossoms on the mountain. The leaves fall and the branches wither. But when spring arrives, I am still the top flower. When spring comes, the colors will be there. Second time, Lord Dragon Monarch, please remember, this old man is leaving." In an instant, the small bamboo forest in Wangui Tower turned into a ball of thick white fog. When the true dragon's power completely dispelled the white fog, there was chaos and darkness in front of her. Long Shirua slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She saw a stick on her head slowly falling and finally falling into her hand. What's the point of this? She laughed bitterly. Although the matter of Mount Tai was over, although Qing Shazi took the blame for Lai Caixing's departure, the 70th Heavens will still chose to stop this sex mistake. Dozens of years ago, you also exchanged your own death for Qing Shazi's life. Now that his soul is destroyed, it's the same. Kelowna's Shinryu scolded bitterly. "Is Qing Shazi your illegitimate son?" "Old devil." In the empty chaos, there was no response. The 70th Heavens had disappeared in front of her after the last divination. In the Go City's City Lord Mansion's meeting hall, a golden light flashed. Kelowna's Shinryu appeared in front of Xiao Xingma and the others again. The changes in Wangui Tower naturally couldn't escape Xiao Xingma's senses. The Go City's City Lord's face was dark as he asked tentatively, "Lord Dragon Monarch, Mr. Tian Xing, from now on, there's no cotton gown sect in this world." Long Shirua said expressionlessly, "Qing Shazi is no longer the successor of Cotton Gown Sect. He has nothing to do with Cotton Gown Sect. If Qing Shazi does anything to harm Kelowna again, kill him without mercy." This, 100 Tribulations Taoist frowned, and then fell into silence. This seemed to be the most severe punishment. If Qing Xiazi committed another crime, he would be killed without mercy. If Qing Xiazi committed another crime, did that mean the matter of Mount Tai was over? The meeting of transcendence will be held tomorrow, Kelowna's Shinryu said indifferently. If there's nothing else, your Dao sect can attend on time. Xiao Xingmao, it's up to you whether you want to go or not. It's getting late. I won't stay in Ghost City. With that, the true dragon of the divine prefecture turned into a stream of light and fled into the night sky like a shooting star, disappearing in an instant. City Lord Xiao, what happened in Ghost Pagoda? 100 Tribulations Taoist asked in silence. Xiao Xingmao smiled bitterly. I respect Mr. Tian Xin very much. I promised Mr. Tian Xin that I wouldn't spy on him in Ghost Pagoda. Taoist, forgive me for not being able to answer your question. Fine. 100 Tribulations Taoist shook his head and thought for a while. No matter what, since it's Lord Longjun's order, I'll definitely warn the Dao sect members. As for the demon race, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do. Ghost City actually belonged to the Demon Race Association. However, because of the special nature of Ghost City wasn't affected by the Mount Tai disaster at all. Strictly speaking, not only did Ghost City have no enmity with Cotton Gown Sect, but even received Cotton Gown Sect's favor because of Tian Xin's guidance on the layout of Ghost City's feng shui. Naturally, Ghost Race won't make things difficult for Mr. Tian Xin's last disciple. If so, we'll go first. 100 Tribulations Taoist cupped his hands and said, City Lord Xiao, are you willing to attend tomorrow's meeting? Xiao Xingmao waved his hand and said, This is a matter of the human world. This 3-inch land of the netherworld has nothing to do with the matters of the living world. Take care. As for the attack on Ghost Gate, I'll investigate it myself. Taoist, please take care of the meeting first. Don't worry. We're going. Thousands of miles of light. Thousands of miles away in Kelowna, the night sky was dotted with stars. Shinryu of Kelowna stopped above the clouds to enjoy the wind. It was slightly cold. Double strike, double strike. What kind of lousy lot is this? You do it twice? Shinryu of Kelowna muttered. At least explain it clearly. Old Mr. Tian Xin. Bah, stupid sign. Damn. The true dragon of the divine land shook his head and remembered that he had encountered a wisp of sword energy from Xianyuan of the 9 states before he went out. He planned to go to Xianyuan Palace before going home and ask about Gong Sun Shiyu. Before setting off, the true dragon of the divine land swooped down and picked up the talisman that had been thrown out. Then it turned around and turned into a ray of light, shooting towards the east sea of the divine land. Mister, did something happen? In the middle of the endless desert, in the middle of the dusty camp, a white-haired man in plain clothes with his eyes closed suddenly turned to face the sky. The white-haired man with his eyes closed suddenly stood up. They saw that his eyes, which had never opened before, were now shedding 2 streams of tears. Then the man directly knelt down in the direction of the east, kneeling on the ground and kowtowing heavily. The people in the camp looked at this mister in surprise. They regarded this mister as a god, because he could always predict the future. We won't travel tonight. The man straightened his back. I want to keep watch tonight. They didn't know why this god wanted to keep watch tonight, but since this god said so, they had to do it. This mister was always right. Because of the curfew in the city, there were fewer people on the street at dusk. On the slightly deserted street, Mr. Jean walked aimlessly through the old streets. Along the way, Mr. Jean beat up several groups of energetic young men who gathered to worship the transcendence. They were dressed in seductive clothes and danced on the ground with cement. But he didn't feel anything special. He felt, it's time to go back. Mr. Jean thought. However, he promised Bebe that he would buy ice cream pudding before he went out. Luckily, he found a shop on the way back. Mr. Jean also bought enough food for everyone for several days. When he passed by an alley, Mr. Jean subconsciously walked in. Perhaps he planned to beat up the energetic young men one last time before he went back. However, to his disappointment, the energetic young men didn't seem to be energetic during this awkward time when the curfew was about to arrive. In the empty alley, There was only a stray dog lying in the corner. It should be a Chinese rural dog. Mr. Jean walked to the front of the stray dog. The stray dog didn't even look at him and just lay there listlessly. "Where's your master?" Mr. Jean squatted down. He saw the rope around the stray dog's neck, which meant that the stray dog should be raised by someone. But the stray dog still ignored Mr. Jean's question. "Are you waiting for your master?" Mr. Jean showed a smile. This seemed to be the first smile since he left. Mr. Jean even took out a piece of bread from the shopping bag and put it in front of the stray dog after breaking it open. "Have you been abandoned?" Mr. Jean suddenly asked. However, the pastoral dog was still weak at this time. He slowly got up and then staggered into the depths of the alley. "Don't eat. It's quite intelligent. Is it a monster?" Mr. Jean suddenly said. The stray dog didn't seem to hear him. It found a more secluded place in the depths of the alley and curled up like a lonely and autistic patient. Mr. Jean frowned. When he was about to do something, his eyes suddenly froze. Mr. Jean instantly stood up. Outside the alley, a figure appeared out of nowhere. As if to see him, the figure quietly watched him come in. Mr. Jean slowly got up, walked to the exit of the alley, and met the person. "It shouldn't be the appointed time yet. Why are you looking for me?" While speaking, Mr. Jean also looked at the figure in front of him. In front of him was a face that seemed to never smile. For Mr. Jean, the person was very young. Also, one of the young man's hands was broken, and he was currently wearing a silver artificial hand. Gong Sun Ji Shui. This was the one thing that Mr. Jean knew the most about this young man, the young man's name. Apart from that, everything about him was like a cloud of fog for Mr. Jean. "I'm here to see you and bring you something." While speaking, the young man, Gong Sun Ji Shui, directly threw a small bottle to Mr. Jean. He took the small bottle in his hand and gently shook it a few times. The sound of the pills inside hitting the bottle indicated that there were quite a few pills inside. Mr. Jean was silent for a moment, and then said indifferently, "I have more. It's not enough for you." Gong Sun Ji Shui said indifferently, "According to the amount you should take and the extra amount you take." Mr. Jean didn't speak. He just silently put away the bottle, and then said indifferently, "Is there anything else?" "No." Gong Sun Ji Shui said indifferently, and then nodded, "Good night." He turned and left. Mr. Jean just watched the mysterious Gong Sun Ji Shui disappear in the deserted street. Just like that day when this mysterious young man suddenly appeared in front of him. Do you want revenge for those transcendents who took away everything from you? Yes. He didn't hesitate at that time, and he didn't hesitate now. Mr. Jean took a deep breath, and his forehead seemed to start to ache again. He seemed to think of something, suddenly looked into the depth of the alley, and then walked in again. He walked up to the dispirited pastoral dog and reached out to pick up the dog's leash. "I don't care if you understand or not. Since you've given up hope on this world, follow me. At least you'll be able to make a living. I'm not giving up on this world. I just don't want to see people." "Forget it." The field dog slowly stood up. Now it was just a dog, a dog, a dog. After leaving Mr. Luo's house and getting a small pill of unknown use, it simply took a taxi from the Witch of the World Academies and ran out of the city. The so-called clue was only a pill whose use and origin were unknown. It was time for him to actively exert his subjective initiative and create the conditions for himself. Let the pill speak for itself. It sounded incredible, but for Master Xing Chuang, who had the star creation technique, the formation of all things, and could grant life, it was just a piece of cake. This is simply a freebie question. The car stopped at a place where it could feel power. Nan Xiaonan instantly ran to a deserted tree and squatted down. She rubbed her fingers, skillfully drawing the technique of Xing Chuang to give life to the pill. Speaking of which, didn't I make a kitchen knife in Wally's castle? When the pill was being born, Nan Xiaonan couldn't help but think of Xing Chuang. Then, I'm a pill, an emotionless pill, great clear pill. A small life was born. End of chapter.